Are you there, Steve?
Plugged it in.
Yeah. Hello.
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 Hello. Welcome to the Type 1 Radio Lounge. Sorry for that little bit
Sorry
of
for it, yeah.
technical difficulty there. We didn't realise the mic wasn't on.
Plugged in, indeed.
Plugged in.
Mm.
Okay, so I am one of your hosts tonight in this conversation with Jan, who we're waiting for at the moment. I am Sonic.
I'm Vic.
And I'm Steve, and hello again, Reset.
Hey guys.
Yeah, the technical difficulties are piling up tonight because our guest hasn't arrived yet, but I'm sure he'll be around at
So
sometime soon.
whilst we're just waiting for him, I've got a few announcements. One being that the Over the Moon Festival, this is for the UK people. The Over the Moon Festival takes place on the 14th, 15th and 16th of September in a little place called Halesham, not far from Brighton. And we've been charged with opening the talks with our first Type 1 Lounge live discussion.
Wow.
It's Vic's,
It's Vic there.
Yeah, with Vic.
Just a bit.
That's what we're going to call it.
Throw me in at the deep end.
we're piggybacking with Vic, really,
Yeah.
for that
So
one.
Vic, if you don't know, is the esoteric correspondent for the Type 1 Radio Lounge.
Yeah, so he'll be well versed in the topics that Jan has for us tonight. Ben Stewart will also be appearing at the Over the Moon Festival on the Saturday the 15th, and on the 14th, September the 14th, he will be appearing at the Manor, let's just call it that. See Darren DOG for details on that. I'll just check it out on the Facebook page there. I think it's called Bodmore Manor in Herefordshire. So he'll be there on the 14th, and the 7th Ben will be doing a talk at the zoo here in just near here in Lewis. These are the dates: Manchester on the 8th, and then London on the 20th, and Glastonbury on the 24th.
Oh,
And what day is the lounge? The 15th?
He can be on the lounge any day he wants. When he's
Yeah, we'll do a pre-record or a pre-record with him at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Be chucked out
And
any time.
also, if any of our lounge listeners who haven't gone out to support the mental health charity Mind, go and seek out the Sonic AD release, Sympathetic Vibrations, out on Pretty Neat Records. Now just go to Beatport and just stick in Pretty Neat, which probably will be the easiest way of getting that.
Yeah. Yeah, bypass the Maniac agenda and buy Sonic Area.
Yeah. Well done to our Maniac Agenda brothers who are in the top 10 of the Beatport charts there, and also
But the number one.
well done to my friend Aaron, who is currently the UK
Oh.
number one.
No. Not well done at it. Shame on him. Fucking drivel. Much better get the new Sonic Area record that came out today.
and be advised that the Friendship Agenda album will be out in October.
Wow, October.
So, yeah, so we're just waiting for a guest. Should we? Oh,
Oh, you know.
Has he arrived?
He hasn't
No,
come on yet.
Not yet.
Hopefully we can get in touch with him. Hopefully he doesn't...
BTR's not giving any audio either. Oh my goodness.
Is it Skype on?
It's on, yeah.
No, is this...
What? What do you mean?
Is the mic of the Skype?
Yeah, yeah.
No, actually on Skype, you know, when it comes up sometimes, where it says the microphone is...
Yeah, I think it's all cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they can hear us, can't they?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, well, hopefully people can hear us in the outside world.
Do you want to hear a tune then?
Yeah, let's go for a tune, because we know that people will be able to hear that.
Not processed yet. Right, got it.
Check the Skype chat room, see if people can hear us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can. I think we'll be alright. Oops. No, what's happening now? There we go.
That sounds noisy.
Welcome back!
Welcome back, yeah.
Oh, that was a lovely tune.
That was, yeah.
Um,
Good old
Hands in the air.
Mr. William Orbit.
Yeah, classic. So we're still waiting for Jan.
Still waiting for Jan to
Yeah.
show up.
So, so maybe we should start the discussion. We've been, well, I've been looking at Jan's work on the brain, which, is that you?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting the brain up. Here it is. The Council of the Nine.
The Council of Nine, what's that then?
Woof.
They're the,
Motherfuckers.
yeah, they're the 9 unknown men, aren't they?
Ah.
I would imagine.
Oh, there might be women then.
The Council of the 9.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't the Council of the 9, isn't that the sort of
One US
extra-
channeling cult.
Yeah.
All of the rest have been huge. Just having anything. Thousands of ability.
So tell us about that.
Quite a lot of the research is on a guy called Gordon Wasson, and I quite like to talk to Jan about. Did he start with Wasson, and then all this stuff has come from there, or?
Well, he started doing John Allegro's book, didn't he? Checking all the citations and the.
Right. Okay.
And when he was engaged in that research, Wasson was dissing him, yeah, just being a right nasty POS, as Jan would say.
Well, Watson was he was an economic journalist and a banker.
Yeah.
And he's the father of ethnomycology.
Yes.
Study of mushrooms.
Study of
and
mushrooms.
ecology and
Mhm.
stuff. Didn't he have
Well, he's isn't he cited as being discovering magic mushrooms?
yeah.
Although
Although
shaman
there's cows
Indians have been
talking about ages
eating
ago.
them for like centuries or millennia even.
Because he wrote a life piece, didn't he? In the 50s about the mushroom. Did he just gone
To Mexico.
Mexico or something? Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah, him and his wife wrote these pieces and they just happened to get published in the highest publications of the time at around about the same time. Full world exposure. How many people get that kind of exposure for a little piece of work they
Well, when
just
you're
happen to
the
do?
vice president of JP Morgan,
It helps.
it does help. It does help when you're mixing with the people that are in the
Century
Life magazine.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Century Club. Yeah.
Super good.
Yeah, what are they about?
Well, they were an arts club, but
Ah.
it was just basically a front. It became a front
It
for
seems
the
that quite-
CIA,
It seems quite a lot
recruiting
of things
ground.
are a front for either CIA or MI5.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Because listening to Jan's discussions with Frater and with Henrik, it really shattered my my preconceptions of particularly Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was the one. That was the one that got me as well. Well, Carlos Castaneda also,
Yeah.
because he was just, his books are amazing, and they're just like, oh no, they're part of the dark side, basically.
Yeah, I think Jans has updated the Castaneda stuff in the last couple of days, so there's loads more there.
I think it's interesting as well the way that Jan shows through history how certain people have been involved in not just one but maybe a couple of cover-ups or ways to round people up and send the masses in a general direction, even if the masses have felt that that was an alternative direction they were taking.
Yeah, if you control both paths.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of interesting when you see the way people like Stephen Jones are controlling the 9/11 truth movement, and then you understand how he was controlling the cold fusion. He very much had a control on that, with preventing that from coming out by.
I think maybe Stephen Jones could be common purpose. American common purpose.
Well, he certainly has a common purpose, which is to keep any.
Well, no, I think he's part of MK Ultra, part of the whole thing that Jan's discussing here. That these are all MK Ultra agents who are just controlling everything, sort of thing. And Stephen Jones,
he certainly goes much deeper, doesn't he?
Within his field, he's probably a part of that.
Yeah.
Reaching to
because
steer people away
from. Pons and Fleischmann was just completely.
So they just used the same technologies, as it were, psychological technologies.
Yeah.
That they found had worked through diverting the psychedelic movement
completely
to areas like 9/11 truth and possibly other conspiracy
cold fusion theories. And cold fusion technologies, which were well on their way to advancement, where you could bring about an energy reaction within, a shoebox, something small and manageable. It wasn't going to be this huge. You didn't need a huge power station or something necessarily to do it. It was something you could have in your own home.
Yeah.
And the work that Pons and Fleischmann was doing was working towards this. Now the work, what Jones did was that he did a different kind of experiment, and he showed that cold fusion couldn't happen. But he was actually working in a slightly different way. I can't remember which because one of them was doing it in water and one was doing it in gas or something, in another medium.
Okay.
I can't remember now. But anyway, his results weren't actually mirroring what Pons and Fleischmann were doing, but through logical fallacies and just kind of pushing well, this isn't working, no, this doesn't work. And undermining. He set up a straw man and he completely undermined their work to the point that they were completely finished after it. Funding was not forthcoming. They left the country.
Well, and do you think, talk about funding, do you think it is coincidental or managed that JP Morgan are heavily embroiled in this psychedelic entrapment, maybe we could call it, as well as the funding of new free energy technologies 100 years ago, and he was funding both Edison and Tesla, and because maybe because Tesla was wanting to make free Wi-Fi electricity available to everybody, and JP Morgan could not see the money in that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go with the
JP Morgan had the patent on the copper wire, so that's why Tesla wanted to make it transmitter, set up transmitters all around the world, so you just beamed your power
like
to
the telegraph.
Yeah. Well, it's the radio. I mean, Tesla invented the radio wave and receiver, or along that lines, and it was Marconi nicked it out of the drawer, didn't he? Because he wasn't bothered about that. He thought, well, that was a toy to send radio waves like we're doing now, sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, JP Morgan had the patent on copper wire, and he had all this copper wire lying around, and he didn't want anybody getting, obviously you wouldn't need copper wire if you did what
He
Tesla.
found out a way of tapping into the ionosphere, hadn't he, to extract natural electricity.
Yeah. Well, he was using the Earth as a harmonic resonator, wasn't he? Which would just send up into these pylons that were everywhere. He wanted a grid around the world, didn't he? Tesla did, yeah. But he just had this, you just had to be near one of these things, and
what was his tower called? I've forgotten.
The Tesla tower?
Yeah.
Tesla.
No, but he had that big thing. Was it Gordon Stone or something like that? Can't
Are you talking about the cage?
No.
I don't know.
Wycliffe. No. What was it called? I'll get it later.
But
yes, I do think that the fact that they rounded up, they had Tesla and they had Edison, and Tesla was very much kept under wraps and closed down, and Edison was allowed to be the public face of this great invention. But of course it was an invention that would lead to enslavement of the people through them having to pay for the product, whereas Tesla, if his work had been developed, it would have been the freedom of the people.
Yeah.
And we would have been celebrating.
Just one of Tesla's technologies.
Yeah.
Would free people. I'm sure these other inventions.
The self-powering car.
So it made great sense to keep Tesla under wraps and control.
The dinosaurs of John Keeley, isn't it? The self-powering car.
But didn't he make one that ran for like
Warden
60 odd hours on nothing?
No, it's not.
The battery life lasted, and it was just a matter of you driving past one of these towers again to recharge it.
Why haven't we got that?
Because it's enslavement.
Yeah.
We're being shat on, and this is what Jan was going to help us discuss.
I got a couple of Victor Schauberger books this week.
Oh, Victor Schauberger?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
The Waterman.
Book. Just see if I've got one here. I got, in preparation for this week's show, I got John Legro's Safe Edition as well.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah. It's on Fox, from Friends of Freeman. Yeah. And that's friendsoffreeman.com. You have to go to friendsoffreeman.socialgo.com at the moment because the Friendship Agenda name is down.
No.
So yeah, people remember to go to the www.friendsoffreeman.socialgo.com.
I tried that the other day, it didn't work. Said that was down as well. But.
Yeah, that was down the other day.
Right. Yeah, Victor Schauberger. So you've been looking into his work, have you?
Yeah. Well, I downloaded it now.
Yeah, he invented. His father was a woodman, and he worked in the woods as well, and he was a kind of at one with nature kind of person, and he invented a log flume, didn't he, that was able to, through its own power, I don't know if this is coming across very well, but he invented this kind of log flume which was revolutionary at the time. Probably the sort of thing that you see in swimming pools across the world now. But yeah, it was a way of transporting the logs.
On a slightly different note, we were in town today because it was the Pride Parade.
Yeah.
And we got given a flyer for a new horror experience that's just opened up in Brighton.
I've heard about this. Yeah.
Where you walk around in some sort of maze and people jump out. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, how long before people take bath salts in there? Start chomping at people and the people thinking, oh, is this part of the experience? I haven't got a neck left. Oh!
Yeah. Imagine if you,
Well, what's it called, you know?
I've not, no.
I can't remember.
Horace.
I know.
Yeah. So we've got a caller to the lounge tonight on the 210 area code. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, my name is Leonard.
Hi, Leonard.
This is the first time I'm listening, and I'm wondering, what are you guys about?
Well, we're supposed to have someone on to interview.
We're about
tonight.
5'7" and dark curly hair.
Yeah.
Hello?
Waiting for Jan Irvin to come on. We'll get in contact. Yeah?
I'm just saying that it sounds pretty interesting.
Okay.
Well, our guest is more
Yeah.
interesting than we are.
Have
We're rambling at the moment.
you heard of Jan Irvin, Leonard?
Yeah.
Excellent, cool.
Good, yeah. Well, if you hang around, hopefully you can ask him a question.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you're more than welcome to join the discussion here, so...
What nationality are you guys?
We're English.
We're British.
British, yeah, British.
Well, I'm from Australia, and I think all the British people are faggots. And not faggots like the cigarette faggots like the gay people.
That's the worst fake accent.
Oh, you fucking faggots.
A crank caller, I don't believe it. Yay! Do you know a guy called John Pistachio?
210 is the San Antonio area code.
How the hell do you know that, you fucking retard?
There's someone waiting for you right now.
I'll tell you what, you just need to shut up, dude.
You fucking faggots should just get off the air and go kill yourselves.
Fair enough.
Oh, are you with the Illuminati?
Fuck your Illuminati.
You go first.
Yeah.
Yeah, arsenic works good.
Yeah, remember to eat all your apple pips, because they do contain arsenic.
You fucking cunt.
Yeah. He's gone.
Bye.
Oh.
Thank you, area code 2.
317.
Hello?
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Hello?
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh my goodness. Well, now he's gone.
Yay. Oh, nice gun caller.
That was a great call, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Why can you not
You
find it?
really likes faggots and gravy.
Sounds like a closet case if you ask me.
Yeah. I think reset on.
Reset on.
Here it is.
Uncle Mackie Roaches, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, maybe
Homophobic tendencies.
whilst waiting for Jan, maybe has anybody got any news bongs?
Ooh. Well, we've got
there
the
is
Paralympics going on now. I haven't watched anything to do with that though.
The news bong
It seems
Freeman and
wrong.
Jamie were on
Smoke weed every day.
Oh,
Wow.
right, okay. On Red Eye.
Freeman and
Okay.
Ray, okay.
talking about Hollywood mind control.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that any good?
Yeah.
What, mind control? Should we give it a go?
Yeah.
Where can we
Can
get
you recommend
some?
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
I did see quite a sight today. Some guy just in chaps and a Darth Vader mask.
Wow.
And that was all he had on?
Oh,
Literally?
Yeah, literally all he had on.
Literally? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
I wasn't proud.
Yeah. Somebody's accent.
Oh, right, so the crown jewels were...
Yeah, they were covered.
Yeah.
Because chaps are just the front, but not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, quite a sight. I didn't get a picture.
How bizarre. Very bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, Newsbong, Ben Stewart's arriving next week.
Yeah.
Did we mention that already?
Stuart's going to be in the country next week.
Ben Stewart.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
And also Yannick, he'll be coming over.
Yannick
Yeah. Yannick will be here too. It's going to be manic with Yannick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've said to H to getting up to the allotment to see what.
Yeah, he'll be able to grow you a prize marrow for next year.
Yeah. Do you reckon he's just listening to this and going, I'm not fucking
Well, we're all prepared for our lovely guest, Jan. We've been all excited this week.
This happens every time I get guests, so you do loads of research. Like them synchro mystics that we are on the floor now, pieces of shit.
Yeah, they're probably ayahuasca, man.
Yeah.
What's Jan's excuse?
Mushrooms, maybe?
He's locked in the library somewhere.
Yeah.
She's glued to her bong.
Say that again, Ken? So?
I think Ken said he's glued to his bong or something.
Yeah, he's glued to his bong.
Does Jan have a bong?
Yeah. Probably got a big huge one.
We can give him one for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, not if he doesn't show up, we won't.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, have y'all been listening to the Mojo Off the Hook? Mr. Mojo's live off the hook? Y'all been listening to that?
I think it's Off the Hook live. Not
something like that.
Freighter X.
I've not caught one yet myself.
No, it's not Freighter X, it's Mojo. Mr. Mojo.
Yeah.
They're associated with each other.
No, they're too different. That's his
That's his alter.
He's compartmentalised.
He's divided once again.
Yeah. It's the key word, you see. It's the mojo, the key word, mojo.
Mr. Mojo.
Well, on that note, we could actually sort of say something serious about it. Freighter's got Sir James Wright on again tonight.
Yeah, so
on the
Your life as it has been is over.
Don't miss the middle chamber with Freighter X on AFR. Listen to the Paradigm Shift Saturday nights 8 p.m. Central.
Sonic's online. What was that? Explosion metal debris.
It was.
What's this dog bark?
Oh, we could just sit here all night listening to stupid sound effects.
Yeah, I got to throw some more in. There aren't too many in there yet.
Oh dear.
I had a cockadoodle doing. I still haven't loaded it up somehow.
Oh.
There you go.
Did you get any joy from Facebook with Jan?
No, well, I sent him a message. Just check on the thing, because it doesn't have the, on here, it doesn't have the chat.
Okay,
It's definitely not online, for sure. Sorry, what was that?
Go to,
chat and
Askbook. Go to Askbook.
I don't have Askbook.
Logbook. No, well, I can log in.
How do you spell it? A-S-S-B-O.
A-S-S-B-O.
Welcome to Facebook. Sign in.
Yeah. Welcome to Facebook.
We love you. There you go, man. Take over. Set the control.
Let's see if this fucker's online.
Fucking guys.
I thought this guy was professional.
That's probably why he's not coming on our show.
Yeah, it's
Hey, you fantastic version. We're the media. Jane said so.
I've seen some of Jan's replies to people that comment on his videos, and he doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
So if he thought we were all shite, he'd come on and tell us, "You are all lame and shite. I don't want to be interviewed by you." He wouldn't agree to do it and then not turn up. I reckon the times have got mixed up or something like that.
Well, he's an intelligent man, surely.
Yeah, but he's dealing with us. It's easy to get confused when you're around idiots.
Well, he's not there either, so...
I mean, look at the general population.
Oh, there's my... That's my...
That's not very good radio showing his pictures on Facebook, though, Nick. Especially when this is on YouTube.
Yeah, we've got cats. There's a really good picture of a cat. If you can do an
impression of a cat, that's good for radio.
Reset, why don't you tell us what's going on in Carolyn World?
Well, let's see here. Yeah, what was it? Not this week, but last week. Last thing that happened. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they were threatening to go to. Hello.
Hello.
That's it. Ken, he's getting high.
Ken's been high.
Anyway, yeah, they were threatening to go to Carolyn's yard and tear down all the landscaping and gardening she had done.
Yeah.
Had you guys heard this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and she had this, method of planting that has a low water type thing, and basically, yeah, she was given. We called and they said, yeah, we're going tomorrow to tear down all your plants, and the phone call and everything is posted up on YouTube in a few different places. Plus, we played it on the free days we have on the Type 1 radio line. But yeah, they did end up going there. What's that?
I listened to it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. They did end up going there and cutting down basically everything in the front yard. I've been taking. I've been to her house once since they did this and took a bunch of photos. And really, all they did was they said they were going to trim back the growth, right? And theoretically, that should only be if it's blocking traffic in some way. I mean, if it's actually causing some sort of nuisance or something. But no, it's just really there's this lady that works at a law firm that just doesn't like this.
Now destroy the garden.
Oh, have you not seen the new ones?
I'm on Carolyn's page now, so.
Okay. But you can see, I mean, you look at the ones before, and I mean, just this big, lush garden. And Carolyn makes the point that, I mean, she had this low water type planting system that she had been using, and there had been a drought going on in Missouri. and she hadn't been to her house in 3 years. The plants were still doing fine. I mean, they had 4 foot, 5 foot tall roses, and they had survived this drought that we've been in. And like I said, I've been there a couple of times, and they looked great. I mean, yeah, they were getting a little tall, and she said, yeah, well, I probably wouldn't have left them that tall, but, I haven't been there in 3 years. But anyway, so, yeah, they went and just basically, rather than trimming everything down, they went and it looks like just took, hedge clippers and cut everything off, like, at the base, basically, of the root, maybe leaving, I don't know, an inch or two, a couple inches of root sticking out.
It looks like the big heavy tractor as well or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, Carolyn says it almost looks like they went in there with a front end loader or something, or a plow, and just plowed everything down. I mean, if you listen to the phone call with the police, the guy, one of them was actually a cop, the other wasn't, I guess. But he says that, oh yeah, we're going to knock everything down. And Karen's like, well, wait, are you going to tear my house down? What are you talking about? But, yeah, and the really stupid thing is, really it sounds like, okay, with cutting all this stuff down, they were going to try and, well, I think they still are going to try and charge her $4,800 for cutting it down because it's a service to her.
Oh, for God's sake.
Which makes no sense. But her house was scheduled to be on the auction block that coming Monday. And luckily, these police were trying to tell her that it was going to be $6,700 to get her house off the auction block. Well, we talked to a speculator that was interested in buying the house, and we actually found out that it was really only about $250 that needed to be paid to get her house off the auction block. So me and another guy here in Columbia drove out to St. Louis and just paid the taxes while we were out there. Took the evidentiary photo of what was done.
Yeah.
And so her house was saved off the auction block, which is a great thing. But, with this hurricane that just rolled through, she's trying to sell this house, and now there's just a bunch of roots, basically, in the front yard. And those roots were keeping, the plants that were there were keeping weeds and other things from growing and making the yard look bad. I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot of other maintenance that needed to be done besides taking care of the plants and trimming the grass. Now that those plants aren't there, and with this hurricane that we had come through, this Hurricane Isaac, I think it was, the remnants of that are coming up, and we're getting a whole lot of rain right now. And Carolyn's really worried that since there's no plants there, one, if you look at the photos, there's basically just a bunch of pits of dirt at this point, and that's all going to just turn to mud. Who knows where that's going to leak to? And also, it's just going to completely have weeds shooting up because there's not going to be other plants there to take the water and the nutrients in the ground. So essentially, they really just seem to have done this to destroy evidence of Carolyn's low water system actually working. And two, it almost seems like they knew this hurricane was coming, that this would happen, and completely when these weeds shoot up is going to make the yard look even worse and devalue the value of the property even more. But otherwise, I don't know. Like I said, it sounds like we've saved the house at this point. But I don't know. She's really kind of distraught about the plants dying like that, and just the way they did it was really insane.
Just deliberately. They're just doing it deliberately because they can, really. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the thing is, they do it this way, and people don't necessarily see, roses and things like, lilacs, just flowers as, life to be saved. Oh, it's a plant. Just, she's got some people on her Facebook page telling her, oh, just plant some grass and quit your bitching. It's like, well, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. These are people that are using municipal ordinances to be able to get around the Constitution and just be able to come onto your property and do whatever if any neighbor complains about anything. I mean, it starts with plants. Where's it going to end,
Exactly, yeah.
They came for the plants, and now they
now they come for the vegetables.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the point we're at now. I guess the next thing is to try and get the things out of her house, the storage, and try and, after doing that, try and sell some of the stuff from her house to get some money to pay off the fines, to be able to get the permit so she can sell her damn house. And then just get the hell out of St. Louis. Yeah. That'd be the new fucking term instead of get out of Dodge, get out of St. Louis.
Yeah, it sounds quite a...
I was very alarmed, actually, to hear the way they go about things in America, or maybe it's just in St. Louis there, whereby they have this law that says that you can rat on your neighbour. Someone can just phone up the authorities, local authorities, and say, I don't like the way they've got their front yard. And that can be an anonymous call, and then the authorities will come out and say, right, somebody said they don't like your front lawn, you've got to change it, or we're going to do it. That seems to be how...
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had a next-door neighbor that called the police on him so often just because my dad allowed this black kid to live at the house that he got fined for calling the police too much, like a couple of $1,000.
Yeah.
So that blew up on him.
Yeah.
No, and Carolyn was telling me the other day that there were a few people in her neighborhood that were helping her out, and I guess the people that were helping her out, the municipal ordinance people started going after them, and so that was like the people like, okay, well, I'm going to step back from this because I'm getting all sorts of blowback like she is. So, if you try to help someone, you can be targeted in the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, that is just like some kind of. Well, what is it? It's like, I mean, it's
conspiracy.
It's so. It's unbelievably.
Well, it's fascism.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fascism.
Yeah, and you try talking to lawyers about it to try and get lawyers to help you, and no lawyers want to touch anything to do with municipal ordinances because they know that it's been written in a way that goes around the Constitution.
Yeah,
And there's
well,
not really a whole lot that
protect the courts, not the client, basically.
I believe the term is totalitarianism.
Jeez, you know, when you hear the American politicians spouting on about American freedoms and, you know, fighting the Taliban to protect their freedoms, huh? What fucking freedoms are they on about when you've got fascist local authorities enforcing fascist rules on...
Oh, yeah, we better tone it down, guys. They're listening.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Kidding.
Yeah, that's very bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
What kind of freedoms? Why is America at war against terrorists again? Because they're going to take your freedoms away.
That's the only reason, so they could steal our... Well, let's see. George Bush Jr. took our Constitution, threw it on the ground, and rubbed it in the mud, and then I think Obama picked it up and wiped his butt with it.
Oh, I guess call
Yeah.
Boom!
Great song, though. Powerful lyrics and...
Did they mention the St. Louis Police Force in there? They should do. Fuck yeah! Fighting for your... Oh, do they? Oh God! I mean, God, are they?
You know, when the government is the criminal, the only chance you have is if everybody put their bullshit aside, all the whites and blacks and Mexicans and every other, and march up to Washington with our guns and throw the fuckers out, is the only way we're gonna take America back. I hate to say it, but.
Well,
that's coming from military experience.
The thing is, though, if you go up to the big White House, there's
no fucker there.
It's all so protected, and you never get anything, and it's just the big protest at the big White House. These things have to happen at a more local level because these people live within your communities, and these people can be.
Unfortunately, it's more simple than you've just got to stop, go to Walmart and McDonald's and big corps, stop drinking Coke, but everybody has to just stop, or else.
I mean, if everyone stopped driving for a day.
I haven't been to McDonald's in 20 years.
Yeah, but your fellow countrymen go there every day for their daily dose of cardboard.
Of course, I can shoot a deer off my back porch, you know, so...
Oh, really? A hare?
Yeah.
A deer?
Yeah. We have, they have a lot of exotic game farms out here, and a bunch of axis deer got loose and started breeding, and since they're not indigenous to the area, you can shoot them year-round.
Oh, wow.
And they're, like, more red meat than a white-tailed deer is. It's more like... It tastes more like cow.
So have you got one of those in your freezer?
Oh, sorry about that.
Not carrying anymore, then.
Oh,
like, you know,
Bambi.
when you live out in the middle of the country, you know, find ways to save money.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's because you're not getting the right fat.
Fuck me, I'll start eating meat then after 30 years. And then I'll be all slim.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah, but I've got diabetes, so that keeps me slim.
Does it?
Yeah.
Were you fat before you had diabetes?
I I did put on 3 stone.
3 stone?
Yeah.
Jeez,
What?
you're taller, you can
When you
go.
say put on, what do you mean you had 3 stone extra before you...
No, I put 3 stone. I'm the same weight as I am now than I was about a year before I got diabetes. And then I put on 3 stone and then got diabetes and then that came off in about 3 weeks.
Jeez,
Yeah.
whoa.
Because you have to eat regularly, don't you?
Yeah.
Otherwise your body will just eat itself, won't
Yeah,
it? That's the dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Sonic will eat itself.
Yeah. And do you know what, this is the dangerous thing as well about women who start losing too much body fat in their diets. And I mean, when you look at these super skinny models and any anchor woman on American television that I've seen anyway,
Stacey Herbert?
Yeah. Yeah, they all seem extremely emaciated, and their bodies are working at less than the rate they should be. And so when you're working at that those levels, you start eating. Your body starts using up vitamins and things, the vital organs from your heart, from your liver.
From your liver, yeah.
Yeah, and things like this. So your body is actually eating itself to sustain itself. And it causes a lot of problems in later life.
I heard this factoid the other day that out of the percentage of your body's energy output each day, your heart, I think that's 6%, and your liver is 27%. That's like probably your main organ that's working pretty much all the time. I think even your brain's only like 8%. So your liver's doing most work, processing all dodginess, and then that gets down to your kidneys. And
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, good stuff. That's health.
Our little health
infotainment.
there. Yeah.
Next.
Helpful health hints.
So Vic, as we've got you here, and tell us about Gnosticism. Tell us about the subject.
How did you first get into Gnostic media, which is Jan's channel? Because you introduced me to that.
It was when I first got on the internet. It was when I first got a computer and went on the internet. It was a couple of years ago now. And obviously having an interest in Gnosticism, I came across Gnostic media, and it's been brilliant.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah.
He introduced me to people like Eustace Mullins and John Taylor Gatto and Gino Denning, of course, and he was the first where I heard John Nash as well.
Is it? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was probably one of the first people to interview.
Right. Well, I first heard John Lamlash on Red Ice, and then subsequently Freighter Show, amongst others. But on that note, I've actually heard that John Taylor Gatto's not very well at the minute. Have you heard this?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, apparently he's an old guy now. He's 78 or something like that now.
I think he's older than that, isn't he?
Well, I think those interviews we were listening to, he was 75 now, like 3 years ago. So
Oh right, okay.
I don't think he's quite 80 yet. But
Right.
I heard somewhere that his health is failing him.
Oh, blessings to.
Well, he's an amazing brain.
He
yeah.
is amazing. He's
Lovely soul.
got an amazing bloke. Yeah. Great humility as well. The bloke, sort of thing, just nice, dead easy to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. And actually listening to John Taylor Gatto talking and from his work as a teacher, I think that somehow being able to connect in some way like that with a young mind, being able to work with children and see where they're at and how to bring them on and how you can how the children were being stifled and how he was just offering them this information, teaching them something. Like I heard him talking about how he taught a class to tell the time, and the principal got really annoyed with him because that was meant to be the.
He was asked to be a substitute teacher to teach Spanish.
Right.
And he taught them how to teach Spanish.
Okay.
That
was with Spanish
that's the time in Spanish, sort of thing. And the principal came in and said that's a whole month of the curriculum he's just done. He went, nah, it's 15 minutes it takes to learn that.
It takes 15 minutes to do
Like,
that.
no, that's the whole, that was the whole first, term.
Yeah.
Blown. So he got fired and he was told he'd never work in teaching again. And then
But he did the same kind of thing with the young children when he was teaching a reading class, wasn't he? But the point I was trying to make anyway, we don't have to be specific about the examples, is that he just has a very good way of bringing things out from people and understanding how to bring education to people. Actually, education isn't something you bring to people. It's what you can bring out of people, how you can get someone to use their own brain to investigate the world and to question the world and to come up with their own answers. It's not about taking something to people and saying, right, well, this is this and I am right. Yeah. And I think
that's what it means to draw out from and to unoccult. So you're taking something that's already in you.
What means that?
Education.
Education,
means to
it means to unhide, doesn't it?
To unoccult and draw out your potential. And just develop that potential. That's what John used to do with his students. He'd let them, if a student was particularly interested in something, then instead of having them follow the normal curriculum, he'd incorporate that. He'd send them off on tasks. Go and do research on it. Go and find out and work with people, and he'd just let them go off and do their own thing, basically. But, as long as they came back with some kind of result. And I think that's something we kind of try and keep children young, and it's good to keep childhood, but we try and keep them umbrellas and
we elongate childhood too much. We stretch out way too much.
Well, no, I don't think that it's childhood. It's not that
the false childhood that we
what we suppress is
independence.
That's it.
But then you get them marketing bras for 8-year-olds.
Well, this is it.
Different side of the coin.
Because on the one side they're trying to market to very young children and young teenagers the excitement of adulthood, shall we say?
Well, that's appealing to the ego and not the intellect. Trying to keep them.
No, they're not. They're not.
Mature intellect.
That's right.
Let them mature with their ego.
And so you've got that side, but then on the other side, they're still being kept very immature because they're, like you say, their investigative skills are not being.
The government's basically trying to keep us all in that respect immature, don't they?
Of
No, it's it's the complete dumbing down. The whole side.
And and even the way they treat us as children, going back to the birth certificate, they're acting as fiduciary for us. They're acting as our guardians, and so they treat us as such. And by dumbing the population down, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? For them, they're keeping people in the place where they want them as their masters, as it were, and through the society. Who's that talking about? Through the society and such things as X Factor and shows like this where it sort of keeps people occupied so they don't go and investigate.
And also, when you're watching programs like X Factor, the kind of things, the mind control they use on these programs, whereby they're making the contestants constantly spew out these kind of mantras like, I really want it, I want it so bad, I want this more than anything in my life, this is the biggest thing, and everybody is spewing out this stuff, and of course there's only going to be one of them that's actually going to get the prize at the end of it, so all the rest of them are spewing out this mantra that says, I want this more than anything else in my life, and they're not going to get it. And it's this kind of crazy, it just doesn't make sense at all, but they, you know, they just want us to keep having this need, this want, this desire for something that we're never going to have, and instead of going, what the fuck, I don't want to sing on stage and have my life tied up with some crap.
We're just talking about dumbing down the population here, Jan, if you're interested.
Hello, Jan.
Hello, Jan.
Yeah, just hold on a minute because my other mic isn't hooked up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to become?
Are we on the air or no?
Yes, we are. Yes. We have been for now.
We're live.
Well, I take it the UK is much more lenient on their swearing laws, clearly.
You can say what you like, so.
There's no FCC rules on this show, my friend.
Yeah, well, here everything is illegal except scratching your ass. Just need your heart.
Well, in Missouri, you've got to be careful with that one. As we're discovering. If your neighbour sees you doing it.
Yeah, you're fracked.
No, that's simple.
Although you have more cameras per square inch than any place on Earth.
We sure do. Yeah.
We're very photogenic.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly London as well.
Well, there's one in the...
You keep supporting that advercundium fallacy called the Queen.
What was that again?
I said keep supporting that advercundium fallacy called the
Advercundium fallacy. That's the first one. Yeah, well done. Yeah, so welcome, Jan Irvin. We're delighted to have you with us at last.
Well, just a minute because I'm switching microphones here. I'm not on my favorite mic.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Should we play a tune?
Yeah, we'll put a tune on and then we'll come back when you're all sorted.
What should we play?
Now, is it illegal to smoke cannabis on the air in the UK?
No, but you have to pass it around.
It's allowed. You're allowed to do that.
Well, we're gonna have a smoke break right now. So.
Oh, wait, why don't we know? Just Jan's here. Let's.
Everybody wants to get his
microphone.
Are you ready now, Jan? No.
No.
No, give it a minute, for God's sake.
I'm trying to get a microphone stand set up here because we did a film yesterday and everything was moved around and taken down, and my microphone was on a stand, and so now I'm just trying to get things so that...
Okay, well, we're going to give you 4 minutes, okay?
I don't want to overly bore your audience. Please carry on. I mean, they don't want to...
We'll play a little song and then we'll come back to you. Yeah, 4 minutes.
Get any better right now?
Hello, that was a bit of primal screen there before we actually start talking to Jan. And are you okay now, Jan?
I'm having trouble with my audio setup here, but I'm just trying to figure out a way how I'm going to hear you guys. So just give me a second with that. But otherwise, yes, everything's ready to go.
Okay.
Cool. Well, welcome to Jan Irvin from Gnostic Media, our guest tonight.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the Tap One Radio Lounge.
Yeah, just sit back and relax and tell us about yourself, because we're all big fans. Actually, Jan, before we do get into it, we were discussing earlier that John Taylor Gatto might not be in the best of health right now. Do you know anything about this?
Yes, he's had a stroke or two.
Oh, God.
And he was doing better, but the problem has been the nutrition and things. He's lost a lot of weight, and there's been an effort to help get his strength back now. But, you know, of course, the hospitals here feed people such horrible food.
Junk, yeah.
Yeah, such unnutritious crap.
Yes, it seems ironic that he's fallen prey to these institutions when he's trying to educate us against them, sort of thing. So,
hold on just a second.
Okay.
Let's send our vibes.
Yeah, send our biggest vibes and wishes to the Gatto.
To the Gatto.
Yeah. No.
All right, I think I should be ready now. Sorry about that.
That's all right, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, you're not getting an echo from the show?
Oh, no, I have headphones and a studio mic here, so I'm good to go.
Okay, right.
So, yeah,
So Jan,
should we just introduce ourselves?
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, so I'm Sonic.
I'm Vic.
I'm Fichick.
And I'm Steve.
And we have
Reset and Ken in the States, your fellow Americans.
It sounds like the Beatles.
We're not as harmonious.
No.
I'm John.
We're not as satanic as the Beatles.
Yeah.
I'm John. I'm Paul.
Okay, don't be too relaxed.
We left Ringo in the bathroom.
Yeah,
And we're here to bring you some propaganda from the Tavistock Institute.
Yeah. Via Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah.
And his mate.
Pick one.
God, I know. Well, that was
Jeez, yeah.
that was the biggest bombshell of a couple of weeks ago. Looking at the brain sort of thing, and all the names that were coming up on it were, well, half of them we knew about, like Leary and stuff like that, but a few others were quite a shock, eh? Carlos Castaneda and Castaneda.
Well, Carlos Castaneda was first exposed by Richard DeMille maybe 3 decades ago. And, following into his background, in fact, more research has been published since Richard DeMille by Professor J. Courtney Fikes, and he wrote a book called Carlos Castaneda, the Academic Opportunism in the Psychedelic 60s. And he exposed even more of the Castaneda fraud, and in fact, he has followed it up in his work and discovered that Castaneda, Barbara Meyerhoff, and Professor Peter T. Fierst all appear to have committed academic fraud together because Jay is an actual initiated Huichol shaman, and that is his official practicing religion. And so he knows all of the places and the people and everything that Carlos and Barbara Meyerhoff and Peter Fierst supposedly wrote about, and he's gone in and done all of the ceremonies and rituals, and he exposes how they faked many of the rituals. This bit of jumping off the cliff and all of this stuff that they all wrote about, the little smoke mushroom, that's all completely fraudulent.
It's interesting as well how, like in the 60s, there was this kind of movement which essentially was kind of saying, right, this is a time of immense opportunity for you. It's a time where you can expand your mind and move into these new realms. And of course, the ideas were all being implanted into people's minds of what these new realms were going to be, and it was all very much an imagination thing that was going on.
There's a couple of different levels here. I mean, and I'm not arguing at all that these substances are not useful.
Yeah.
Completely,
Not
yeah.
completely,
as we know with the shaman in the forest. Have you seen that film, The Shaman's Apprentice? Hello.
What's that?
Have you ever seen that film, The Shaman's Apprentice?
No, I haven't.
It's an interesting film about this guy who's, through his discoveries of the native people within the forests and how the drug companies were basically taking their medicines, which the shaman was discovering through his use of psychedelics. He was able to discover and understand what the plants were saying to him and find that this tribe that he was working with have the only cure for diabetes in the world. And
well, there's a real easy cure for diabetes. You just stop eating wheat and carbos. I mean,
well, that's another way, but.
Well, I mean, that's the most obvious way. It's caused.
They don't have these things. But
you have to go to the root cause of what causes diabetes instead of putting a Band-Aid on top of it. I mean, the most obvious cause of diabetes is spiking your insulin levels, which is primarily caused by grains, number one, and then sugar, number two. But grains, and especially wheat, like if you eat 2 slices of bread, it spikes your insulin level more than just eating a tablespoon of sugar straight down your throat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people like within the tribe, obviously, like within a forest setting, you're not going to have the same kind of diet as we do living within a city. So they weren't. This was something that was coming as part of people's lives within the jungle, not just because they were eating wheat or something.
So you're saying that indigenous people often get diabetes? I'd have to look into that because that's shocking to me. Because you would have to have a high. I mean, especially type 2 diabetes, but you would have to have a very high intake of far too many fruits and carbos and things like that for that to even be an issue in a jungle setting.
Well,
typically jungle people live off of a lot of meat and proteins and things like that, and there's just no risk of diabetes there.
Maybe, like, because the woman who was being treated was an older woman, and maybe, you know, she was getting liver problems as she was getting older, but this was a way of that they would treat her with this liquid that they made. But the whole thing of the Shaman's Apprentice was that the drug companies were taking the medicines and the plants from the jungles, putting them in pills, then re-entering the jungle with missionaries, educating or uneducating the people from their own instincts and learning.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and then reselling the drugs back to them. And
sure, and not only that, but the goal of the priests in there is to drive, you know, they supposedly educate them and then drive them out of their indigenous culture into the cities where they can then be taxed and put into the political system where, you know, as instead of being feral human beings entirely free, this way they're in the system and completely controlled. So, yeah, the whole education system is about destroying the indigenous cultures and driving everybody into the cities, even though these cultures have managed these forests for millennia, where we come in and screw them up in 100 years.
Well, this guy, he's gone back there and he's actually kind of trying to make it kind of cool for the young people to actually see that the shaman and the job of becoming shaman within the tribe is actually a really important thing, because their knowledge is being lost, and it's being lost so quickly it could be gone within a generation if these things aren't kind of nurtured and brought back. And he was doing things like showing them that, look, this headache tablet here that you've been taking, it comes from that tree over there, and actually showing them that they actually had the answers that had been taken away from them, and they had to rediscover these things again, and that the knowledge was still there. They were completely having their culture stolen from them.
Oh, sure. But, you know, and you get these pharmaceutical companies that go down there all the time and steal these indigenous medicines and then patent them, and then go back and tell the indigenous people that they're no longer allowed to use them, and it's just, you know, it's just like these companies, you know, these criminal organizations like Monsanto, that go around and patent every seed. I mean, I just can't even understand how Monsanto is allowed to exist on any level whatsoever. I mean, I would think that people would be pulling up in front of these buildings with guns and billy clubs and saying, look, man, if you people walk inside that building one more time, you're dead. But, you know, they let it go on and go on and go on. And meanwhile, Monsanto is patenting the world's food and poisoning the rest of us, which is, in fact, a direct violation of natural law. It's a direct attack on us, and yet people do not fight back. It is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you know, don't just, you know, drive them out of one country into another. Completely shut them down permanently.
I think part of the problem is that they're all dumbed down.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, and they're using these GMO foods to dumb people down. And then, of course, for 2 generations after you eat this GMO crap, you're unable to reproduce, and the offspring are unable to reproduce. Or you have, like, you know, it destroys the reproductive organs by, like, 80%. So you only have, like, a 20% chance of reproducing with these GMO foods. And this is all intentional. It's just like the, you know, spiking the all the birth control pills in the water supply now, all of that estrogen, it causes it's causing major problems with male births and male penis size shrinkage and testosterone and sperm production, and all of this stuff is being heavily impacted by that. On top of the estrogens in the processed foods and in the
plastics they wrap the food
in the plastics and all of this stuff, exactly. So they're hitting us on all of these sides, and then you hear guys like Terrence McKenna at 1 hour and 11 minutes in his 1994 talk in Maui, where he openly admits that he's all for eugenics and feminism and humanism and getting rid of at least 2/3 of the male population and all of this stuff. And you can see that he's working with Julian Huxley, and Julian Huxley is the grandson of Thomas Huxley, who was very close friends with Charles Darwin and promoted all of Darwin's theories through the Royal Society. And so we see this eugenics plan, this identical eugenics plan, being promoted by McKenna in his stuff as some of the most famous eugenicists and Nazi and Zionist freak shows that we can think of out there.
I wanted to ask your through your research with the brain there, which is phenomenal, by the way. How complicit do you think that some of these people were? I mean, obviously, from what you're saying there, Terence McKenna was completely complicit in this.
Well, I mean, I don't have any evidence that Terence was an agent, but I mean, he was a willful idiot in the extreme. Let's put it that way. And he was definitely complicit in pushing forward their philosophies, and I got wrapped up in his nonsense for a decade. And in fact, probably at least half of the McKenna archives that are online today came from my personal archives between 2002 and 2003. Excuse me, I released 70 hours of his material from my own personal archives, and I look back at that today and I think, man, that was one of the biggest mistakes I have ever made in hindsight, because now I can see his agenda of selling eugenics and selling these various programs that are pure propaganda. For those who are into feminism and eugenics, I recommend going on my Gnostic Media website. It's gnosticmedia.com, and just listen to my interviews with Karen of Girl Writes What, and with Curtis Duncan, and with Curtis Duncan of the. I was trying to give the title of that. You want to go ahead?
No, carry on.
No, carry on. Yeah, carry on. We're just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to read what the title was: "The Conspiracy to Feminize Males and Masculinize Females." And so, when you go in and you listen to that material and listen to how they're lying and poisoning everybody and using all of these sophist tricks for this stuff, it's clear that it's for the elites. And Terence McKenna tries to sell it as this hippy-dippy thing to do for the next generation, but it's all eugenics. It's all about getting the hippie middle-class kids to not reproduce, to get them on a vegan or vegetarian diet, which is very low in saturated fats, and of course both the brain and the reproductive organs need saturated fats, as has been very well published by the Weston A. Price Foundation. And for those interested, they can study Sally A. Fallon's research, and she's got a book, Nourishing Traditions, and her documentary film, which can be found on YouTube, The Oiling of America, and she exposes all of that as a fraud. For instance, your brain is 77% cholesterol. The HDL, the good cholesterol, not the crap that you get from grains that they tell you is from animal fats. But, the HDL cholesterol is all from animal products, your meats, your dairies, your eggs, butter, stuff like that. And then the LDL, the bad cholesterol, is all from your carbos and especially from your grains. And they've lied and they've tricked everybody into these low-fat diets because the low-fat diet, obviously, and what's interesting, if you study cults, the history of cults in various religions, one of the first things that they usually do is try to get their members to stop eating meat and immediately onto a vegan or a vegetarian diet. This is because you don't think as well without the saturated fats. Your brain is 77% HDL cholesterol. And if you don't have enough cholesterol, your liver can only produce 20% of what your body needs every day. So if you don't have those saturated fats and that HDL cholesterol coming in, you're literally hurting yourself. And then on top of that, your reproductive system is entirely, is based on these saturated fats as well. So what they do is they get everybody to stop eating saturated fats, get on these low-fat or vegan diets, and then, so then you can't think, and on top of that, you can't reproduce. So they get you from two different angles on that.
I've seen also in low-fat yogurts that they stick aspartame in there, aspartame.
Do you know that we even have sugar in this country which has aspartame in it?
Yeah, it's called half spoon, because these are silver.
Well, yeah, and that comes from formaldehyde, and it turns into methanol, which is wood alcohol, which makes you go blind and causes all kinds of problems. My first wife, who was from Belgrade, from Serbia, you know, she and I used to go back and forth between Europe all the time, and she, you know, she was one of these sort of Model S Serbian women that was all into her looks and everything, and she would eat potato chips and diet soda. And so one time she takes off to Belgrade about a month or maybe 6 weeks ahead of me. I had a bunch of work here to do. And so she's over there, and she is bedridden for 4 weeks because aspartame, of course, is illegal and was illegal in Yugoslavia, and as were, you know, artificial food colors and things like that. So she had nowhere to get her diet sodas. So when she got there, she started detoxing and couldn't get out of bed for almost a month. She slept for a solid week after she got there.
Bloody hell.
Wow. All that false energy that this stuff was giving her as well.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, very, very insecure, bulimic type of personality. You know?
Yeah. Oh, we were just talking, actually, just previously. I was just talking about how when you see these emaciated, stick-thin women as news anchors or, you know, especially when they're older women, you just can't help but think that, well, not help but think, but it's a fact that actually when you're so thin that you don't have enough body fat on you, you start actually, your body starts eating your major organs.
Sure. And you know, and of course that's not to go as far as the wheat belly from people who eat carbos and are fat naturally. I mean, you know, you shouldn't have a whole lot of body fat, and you shouldn't be too skinny. You know, if you eat you know, potatoes or rice or something that, you know, mild carbos with your the rest of your food, you're okay. But it's literally the carbos that's, let me put it this way, there's no way to get fat unless you're eating carbos.
Yeah. I've been quite turned on by the paleo diet, actually, and looking.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the Weston A. Price Foundation and Sally A. Fallon.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That is her work, and she gives extensive primary documentation how they intentionally tricked everybody onto vegetable oils and to stop eating your bacon grease and this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and
and his work.
Yeah, it's the vegetable oils are completely toxic. And you know, and not only that, but when you just save your bacon grease in the morning, you never need to go buy oil for anything. You have a constant, steady supply right there for your, you know, for your daily needs. So it completely cuts them out of the loop.
Yep. And because I was kind of thinking, because I've been vegetarian for many years, and I've started eating meat again now.
Yeah, I was vegetarian for. Well, I was vegan for 3 years strict. I was vegetarian for 3 years strict. And then I would maybe eat meat, you know, once or twice, maybe a month for the next 6 years after that. Yeah. And that was the most detrimental, the vegan and vegetarian, the strict part was the most detrimental thing that I've ever done for my health. And I didn't start feeling better until I started eating a little bit of it. And then I eventually went to once a week. And then I started feeling a little better. And then I started eating 2 eggs for breakfast. I'm like, wow, I feel really good today. And then I moved it up to 4. Now I typically eat 6 eggs every morning for breakfast, and that'll power me for about 6 or 8 hours solid.
Yeah, you know, when I've had some chicken soup, I find that I've got energy for the day, which, you know...
Bungs you up a bit, though, no?
Sure, and what they want you to do is, you know, you get up and eat your Kellogg's cereal. You know, and Kellogg's was one of these eugenicist guys, too, and his brother... Yeah. You know, his brother worked in the prisons, and you know, so they created these cereals as prison food, ladies and gentlemen. So those of you who feed your kids cereal for breakfast, you're feeding them prison food, which was designed to dumb them down and make them docile so that they could be more easily controlled in the prisons. And, you know, it's really bad stuff. And not only that, not to make them just docile, but to also increase the death rates of the inmates.
Doesn't it decrease the sperm count as well? Or something like
that? Oh, yeah. You know, eating wheat is really just a poison. You should never put that stuff in your body. And, in fact, I got I first had Dr. William Davis, the author of Wheat Belly, on my show, which is at gnosticmedia.com last December.
He's great, yeah.
And so, you know, since then I've had hundreds of emails from people all over the world who told me that they've stopped eating wheat and have every single person. I've not had one person write me to say that they had a detrimental effect from not eating wheat. In fact, I got an email this morning from Slovenia from this guy saying that he stopped eating wheat and that all of the extra body fat is gone. He has more energy. He doesn't get the constant midday hunger pains anymore and all of this kind of stuff. And a lot of his health problems were clearing up. And these are the standard reports across the board from everybody that I know that stops eating grains and especially wheat.
Yeah, yeah. Because also,
I mean, if you're in a severe drought, like if you're living in the Middle East and it's 2,000 years ago and there's, no other food source and the drought killed off your food, the enemy stole the rest of your food, and you've got this, this pile of wheat there to get you through a few months while you get some animals and food growing. I mean, by all means, eat the crap. Yeah. But unless you're in that situation, don't ever eat it otherwise. Yeah. It's simple as that.
You could eat a pair of leather shoes and get some kind of nutrition, couldn't you?
Well, leather is from a cow, so I would bet that you could probably get significantly more nutrition.
Also, I was like thinking about the paleo diet and the Western price stuff. I was thinking, because we don't have a big garden, but we have a reasonable sized garden, and I have vegetables growing in there and fruit trees and this kind of thing. But if the shit hits the fan, it ain't going to feed one person for a winter, and it certainly isn't going to feed a family for a winter. Whereas if you had a few chickens, a goat maybe, that kind of, in a very small area of land, you would be able to feed a small family to survival level.
And of course, in the United States, what they've gone and done is ban most
farmers.
Ban most people from having chickens and things like that. And in fact, just this last year, San Diego, so many people descended on the city hall, fed up with it, that they forced the city to rescind the law. So now everybody in San Diego is allowed to have 3 chickens. No roosters, but they're allowed to have 3 chickens. So at least, there are places that are starting to allow people to have their own food supply back. I mean, it's just ridiculous. When you go to the store here to get organic eggs, it's, $5, 2.5 pounds for a dozen eggs.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
And I've seen organic eggs up to $7 or $8 a dozen.
Yeah.
Now we go to our own, when we can make it, we go to our own farm and buy them direct from, not our own farm, but the local farm that sells them.
Yeah, or just friends of ours that if they're visiting and they've got chickens, they'll bring eggs, and yeah.
So how do you think all this relates to the dumbing down of the population and the removal of the trivium and the quadrivium in the schools?
Well, I think it's all very directly tied in, and in fact, on my Trivium Education website, right on the front page, we see a quote there from Sir Thomas More from his book Utopia Book 1, which is, I think, from the early 1500s, early 16th century. Mm-hmm. For if you, the rulers, suffer your people to be ill-educated, and their manners to be corrupted from their infancy, and then punish them for those crimes to which their first education disposed them, what else could be concluded from this but that you first make thieves and outlaws, and then punish them? The elites and the elites and these Zionists and everybody else, what they do is they create this dumbed-down education system without the trivium and quadrivium. They dump people down there. They create this planned obsolescence stuff, and they get rid of the electric car, which was actually in full production more than 100 years ago, not just these models that are coming out today. But they're the ones that implement all of these sorts of plans. They block Tesla research and cause all of this pollution, all of this consumerism. And then they turn around and say that we are the problem. Mm-hmm. So, again, they cause the problem, and then they punish us for being the problem. It's like, giving somebody a hand up while you're stepping on their face, right?
Yeah. And just to sort of bring things round a bit, actually, to the point I was trying to make earlier about how in the 60s they kind of spun this whole idea of that there was going to be this kind of revolution of the mind and this kind of revolution happening, and that they had all the gurus there ready to suck people in with this. And I really see a similar thing playing out now with this whole New Age movement, and it's been going on for years now, where people have spun this thing that this new thing is happening and your mind is going to open to these new things and this is going to be love. And it's all kind of going on in the mind, and these things are being implanted in the mind. And of course, all the gurus are there, and the kind of let's all love.
You're looking at the same movements, and in fact, all of that stuff is being promoted primarily out of Esalen, which is controlled by the Stanford Research Institute in partnership with the infamous Tavistock Institute, which has about 40 to 50 concurrent eugenics and mind control operations going on right now. Like I said, concurrently. So.
Have you, in your research with the Tavistock Institute, have you come across Sir Lord Owen, David Owen?
David Owen? No, I haven't.
He was a leader of one of our political parties. He was Labour, and then he switched to the Liberal Democrats.
And interestingly as well, I'm sure he was the secretary to one of the doctors who was doing the experiments in the sleep labs at St Thomas's Hospital in London. And the sleep lab, there's an interesting interview, radio program called Inside the now it's called The Mind Bender General, and it's about this general hospital and where they were doing these deep sleep experiments. And they were doing them on women, menopausal women and things like this. And these women were coming out afterwards and speaking, or not straight afterwards, obviously, but later these women were coming forward saying how traumatized they'd been and how they had suffered deep memory loss and couldn't remember huge parts of their life. And David Owen was involved in that.
Well, it sounds like I forget this doctor up in Canada that was part of MK Ultra, and he would put his patients under with LSD for 45 to 60 days at a time, if you can believe that. And it's just, these people are just disgusting, twisted bastards. I mean, they don't have any problem whatsoever violating natural law against other people.
They used to insulin therapy as well, didn't they? Where people who weren't diabetic, they'd shove them full of insulin, and then that would make them go into a coma. They used to do that at mental health hospitals in this country.
Sure. I'm just trying to think who was that. Maybe that was Harold Abramson or one of these guys. I don't remember. No, Harold Abramson was at Stanford. I'm just trying to remember the guy that was up in Canada doing that awful stuff, though. But, there were a number of these guys. Kurt Lewin, Louis Jolyon West is another one of these creeps, and he was the one behind Sirhan and Patty Hearst and all of that. And then there's, we've got Gregory Bateson, who is one of the key founders of the Esalen Institute, and he was behind the Macy conferences. There's Richard Helms in there. We've got Alan Dulles in there. Aldous Huxley, that dirty son of a bitch, he comes up in just about every operation that I've ever studied. He is one of the key, he or his brother Julian are the key figures behind it. And as far as I can tell, they're really the ones who are running Project MK Ultra. Julian Huxley, obviously, working for MI6, and Aldous working here in the United States with the Esalen Institute, and with, let me just pull him up here. He's also working with the Tavistock Institute. And interestingly, he was trained by H.G. Wells, and H.G. Wells worked with his grandfather, Thomas Huxley, and, I'm just looking in the brain database right now under Aldous Huxley for those who want to follow along. In fact, the brain database is available for anybody to download. And if you just go to, and we can put it on this interview too possibly, but if you go to my website at gnosticmedia.com and just click on either my recent Freighter X interview or my recent Red Ice Radio interview, and you'll see all of the information there to download the database. And there's an online version that you can follow along with as well.
Yep. Got it up right now.
So, but yeah, Aldous Huxley appears to have been the handler for guys like Alan Watts, the famous hippie philosopher.
Wow.
Terrible.
And he appears to have been the handler for Bill Wilson, who created Alcoholics Anonymous. As far as I can tell, he's the handler for Carlos Castaneda as well as Wasson. Carlos Castaneda had lunch with Wasson at the CIA's front club, the Century Club, which is the East Coast version of the infamous Bohemian Club on the West Coast. And so Carlos had lunch there with Wasson, and I exposed Wasson as being R. Gordon Wasson, the man who discovered magic mushrooms. I have primary documents that he was both CIA and CFR. He was a chairman for the CFR, and I have one document where he's actually trying to recruit George Kennan, the former ambassador to Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union. He's trying to recruit him into the CIA.
So Wasson was the vice president of J.P. Morgan, was he?
Well, let's be clear. He was the vice president of propaganda for J.P. Morgan.
Okay. So
this is a little missed fact. I mean, everybody thinks, oh well, he was just a banker, and he's a banker and doing just little banker stuff. No, he was a banker for J.P. Morgan, which is one of the most criminal enterprises on the face of the planet. He was in charge of public relations and propaganda, and dealing with how J.P. Morgan presented themselves to the public. And Gordon Wasson was a close friend of none other than Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, who renamed propaganda to public relations to soften it so that people wouldn't be upset by it. But this is who Wasson hung out with for at least a decade.
Well, for anyone that's actually interested, I don't know if you've seen it, Jan, but there's a documentary that's shown only once on the BBC called Century of the South by Adam Curtis.
Yes, Adam Curtis, and he's also got All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, where he very solidly debunks the ecosystem theory as well. But see, the issue that people don't realize is that Wasson and Edward Bernays were working together on all of this stuff, and they were, as well as Huxley. And so what they were doing was they were doing social engineering through the psychedelic movement to create the idea of this world citizen, to accept the New World Order, to give up their want for autonomy and individual freedom to this, this larger collective. Never mind it's not what you can do for it's not what you can do for yourself. It's what you can do for your country, or whatever the hell Kennedy said. I mean, this is this same idea. I think that Kennedy was promoting before he woke up and got whacked. Kennedy, in hindsight, once he woke up, he really did a lot to try and expose this stuff. So it's clear why they took him out. And then before him, I think the only good president before him was Johnson. So at least 130 years before him. And so, any of these guys that slip through, they do immediately try to exterminate. So.
Have you been on the JFK tip there? Have you been able to get in contact with Judith Baker at all?
Well, I did try and contact Judith Baker, and in fact, I have an email from her the other day. I asked her some very explicit questions about Lee and George de Mohrenschildt, and her reply, if I can find it here, was... she says, "Dear Jan, have you read the book, Me and Lee? That's the first step. If you have, then we can proceed. Never mind the specific questions. And to my understanding, the first 100 pages of her book is just mostly her gloating about her achievements in her childhood and things like that. And I would rather cut through the fat. Hey, what do you have on this? Can you provide this information without, it says, if she said, yes, Jan, I published that in my book on these pages, go ahead and check that out, then that would give me a lot more reason to go out and buy her book.
We've got
Jan,
We've got a person, Carolyn, who did the interview that was aired on Type 1 radio back in November. So, here's Carolyn.
Hi, Jan. How you doing? Oh, I was catching a little bit what you were saying about Castaneda's story. The mushroom thing is kind of an interesting story, too, because I got to admit this stuff actually works.
There's a lot of noise. It's got to be quiet in the background there so I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, okay, we're all in different places. There shouldn't be any noise where I'm at. I'm in Columbia, Missouri right now. But I've actually become quite a good friend of Judith. The reason you got to understand what her book is about. It's the fact that she actually was a mistress of CIA operative Oswald, which I've been able to prove all the ways, and other people have been able to prove. And the reason that she talks about her past is it becomes essential because it actually reinforces the fact that Oswald was a CIA operative and that she was actually, and along with him, he was basically being just an operative, but she was a researcher helping weaponize cancer. So, the book is not just about, the Moore Shield and a bunch of other people. It goes a lot beyond that. It ties in a lot with Dr. Mary Monkey, Edmund Haslam's fantastic book on how what the polio vaccine was full of weaponized cancer and was given to people since 1955 to 75, and they knew it. But if you need to reach her again, I think you and I exchanged some email, because I know Nick gave me a couple people that wanted to reach her. If you have any problem, I can help you reach her and get the questions to her. She did get the questions, and her reply was just pretty clear that she didn't really want to answer. But see, what I've discovered is that, Gordon Wasson ran and this comes directly out of the Princeton University's Mudd Library Council on Foreign Relations archives, that Gordon Wasson and George de Mohrenschildt together ran the Russian Student Fund. Now, obviously, George was a very close friend of Lee's, and my question to her is, how much was Wasson around when George was around with Lee, and did George and Wasson have anything to do with getting Lee out of and back into the U.S.? And, of course, Wasson's close friend was George Kennan, who was the ambassador to the USSR. Well, okay, you got to understand, first of all, obviously, anybody that are these morons that still believe that Oswald actually shot Kennedy is a joke, because nobody goes in and out of the United States after declaring that they're a traitor and they're going to give information, because he'd actually worked on a YouTube base that Gary Powell.
Well, sure, I'm not going there. I know that he was an agent. I'm not going there. I'm just focusing on the connection between Wasson and de Mohrenschildt and these other guys, because if we can link that, we can make a really tidy package on a good chunk, I think, of the Kennedy assassination.
So it's the Wasson connection you're after.
I'm looking at the Wasson connection, and I know that Wasson and George de Mohrenschildt were very close friends. When George de Mohrenschildt was suicided, Wasson and George Bush Sr.'s phone number were found in his pocket.
Well, yeah, George Bush Sr. was actually in Dealey Plaza the day they killed him too. I mean,
yeah, sure.
He was involved with the Bay of Pigs and everything. I mean, Bush Party it has been a traitor, just like Prescott Bush and the rest of the
product oil and all of that. Sure, but in fact, in the Brain database, if you click on the JFK assassination, you'll see the documents right there from the West Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, acquired by Bruce Adamson originally, showing Gordon Wasson and George Bush's names right there. Now, furthermore, it appears that, as far as I've been able to tell, now, Abe Zapruder's wife worked, George de Mohrenschildt's wife, as far as I can tell, worked for Abe Zapruder. And so, we have this... Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it was a very, very tightly controlled situation in Dallas, and that's why it made a perfect killing field for him. Because actually, if you go back and you study the 9, if you've done any research on, what I mean by the 9,
Yeah, well, that's Andrea Puharich. And hold on, that's Andrea Puharich, which leads right back to the Esalen Institute, and Huxley, and Michael Murphy, and Dick Price, and of course Andrea Puharich was one of these guys pulling mushrooms out of Mexico. He even tried to go on one of the trips with Wasson. But he was in charge of collecting compounds for psychological warfare for Fort Detrick, Maryland. He's also working with this Uri Geller clown, Ben Spoons with his bare hands, you know.
Don't laugh. I'm actually friends with Uri Geller. And yeah, he was actually one of the kids that were
I've seen his fraudulent videos, and I know his hucksterism, and I'm well familiar with the occult art, mind control, and how that stuff works.
Yeah, you got to understand who he was. Actually, one of those kids that were tested on birth. That's why he was such a good friend with Michael Jackson, because when Michael Jackson, who was actually murdered, when he got killed, I actually was.
Michael Jackson got murdered for getting ready to go on this major concert tour, talking about, you know, they don't care about us, and exposing all of that stuff. And Michael Jackson was, you know, he'd had enough, and I think he was. You know, I haven't done a whole lot of research into that, but my suspicion is that he was about to go public big time, exposing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
he was.
With David Icke.
No, he was going
to expose all this, and if you look at his last record, the cover image, it was before 9/11, has the tower, has it burning, has the Masonic black and white floor and everything else, and he's already got a black armband on, and yeah, he was killed for that reason. But I actually had talked to Uri Geller the day that he was murdered, and I also talked to what the hell's the other guy's name? But I mean, they all knew it. They all were warning him that he was going to get killed. And whether, you know, I'm not gonna go into whether somebody can bend spoons. I could care less. But like I said, Uri Geller was also tested as a kid, and you know, these guys, you know, the CIA has just been Nazified. That's all it was since the 1947 National Security Act. Even Truman admitted it was the worst act that he did as a president, and created a fourth branch of government in the United States, and has fucked our country up for the past 50 years or 70 years. But you know, you got to understand, some of these guys were victims too, and that's why, like, with Judith, I know she's not being rude to you. She really has been just flooded with stuff. But the reason I was bringing up, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, pot oil was actually, you know, their platforms were set up off of Cuba to help the Bay of Pigs, and you know, that was Papa Bush's his way of laundering money, and his platform, just like our Busa oil, which was funded by the Saudi Prince and Bin Laden family, which is always hilarious. Yeah, but you got to remember Prescott Bush. You got to go into him too, because you know, he started it with the treason. Butler,
right?
You know, the fact he funded Nixon was also in Dallas that day, and you know, Nixon was funded because he had helped scrub the paperclip files along with Alan Dulles.
I think you're getting feedback from your from your mic and your headphones, because you constantly cut out every few words.
No, that just happens to me no matter what I'm on.
That's just Carolyn. So Jan, let's get back to some of your stuff. I had the pleasure of watching the Pharmacratic Inquisition. This week. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that, because that's got some.
Well, that was you know, that's really the companion for my book Astrotheology and Shamanism that I first published in December 2005, and I republished it again in January 2009 in a heavily updated and much nicer second edition, also available in color. But the Pharmacratic Inquisition is really my investigation beginning in the early 2000s, looking at, or following John Allegro's path on looking at Judeo-Christianity as having been based on a fertility mushroom cult. And of course, he became the laughingstock of academia for proposing such a thing. And in hindsight, you know, today we have primary documents like the Epistle to the Renegade Bishops that actually support his views, as well as more than 2,000 Christian icons and iconographic images that specifically show the mushrooms from all over, from Russia and you know, Greece all the way through England and even into modern Canada. So we've got all of these images now, and so we've been able to substantiate through primary documentation, regardless of what some of these religious and Dead Sea Scrolls scholars say. We do have the primary documentation to show that a lot of his theories were correct. Professor Rock.
Don't worry, Jan, we keep going.
We'll just say goodbye to the live listeners. We're going to go into the podcast shortly. Carry on talking, Jan.
What was I saying now?
About the mushrooms and how he was discovering...
anyway, I totally dropped my train of thought on that. Anyway, that's that.
Yeah, it's interesting that it just goes to show
that's
that
not this is hell.
That how you're saying that suddenly Wasson comes up with this story about how he's discovered these mushrooms, and suddenly through him and his wife's work it becomes promoted and all the psychedelic movement moves in from there. But it's obvious that the whole mushroom thing and as you say, like controlled use of these substances can be of benefit, but obviously they can also be of benefit to people who wish to control you by giving you these experiences and then telling you what to think afterwards.
Let me just read you a quote from Dr. Jolyon West, who's one of these creeps behind a lot of this stuff, and excuse the intentional ad hominem against him. God, that is obnoxious. All right. Yeah. The role of drugs, I might as well just wait to read this until after the end, because that's just going to cut me off anyway, so I'll just wait.
Well, that'll be the last one.
Yeah, that's it. You're all right. Go ahead, Jan.
All right. The role of drugs in the exercise of political control is also coming under increasing discussion. Control can be through prohibition or supply. The total or even partial prohibition of drugs gives the government considerable leverage for other types of control. An example would be the selective application of drug laws against selected components of the population, such as members of certain minority groups or political organizations.
Oh. Going back to the pharmacratic inquisition, do you think Valentina Pavlov, Watson's wife, was a relative of Santa Claus? as in the Siberian shaman tradition?
I don't understand your question. You're asking me if she was a relative of Santa Claus?
It was a joke. It's a joke. Sorry.
Sorry, Jan, a bit of English humour there for you.
Yeah, sorry, I've not watched Horses and Men in a few decades.
No, because you go into the whole thing about the Siberian shaman and the origins of the Christmas story and Santa Claus and the myths surrounding Christmas and the gathering of mushrooms and...
Well, the Watsons didn't really get into that. A lot of that didn't really get out until Professor Patrick Harding at the University of... is over there on your side, University of Sheffield, and then there was, and I've gone into some of that. There was another guy wrote there's a handful of books on that topic that first started exposing that, and then we went in and we dug up a lot more information, and were able to tie a lot of that into astrotheology that a lot of people like to say is totally bunk because instead of going to libraries, they do Wikipedia searches and can't find stuff on it. So, that's
I quite like the image you portrayed in the Pharmacratic Inquisition of Moses basically going up to the top of this hill, taking some mushrooms and seeing this bush sort of come alive. And
and it's apparent that the elites have really used psychedelics in the upper echelons of the religions and government for, as far as we can tell. And in fact, the more I dig into this, I'm beginning to see undercurrents of, recently, for instance, a friend of mine published an article that shows that somebody predicted that a ergot substance was going to be discovered off of wheat and was going to create a new religious revolution 10 years before Albert Hoffman, quote unquote, discovered LSD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean the coincidences there. And then you look at Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, and you look at Walt. You look at Walt Disney and all of his pre-Watsonian mushroom stuff, and you look at the Ivan painter or the Russian painter Ivan Bilibin, who painted a lot of this stuff far before, showing, for instance, psilocybe and amanita mushrooms together. And then you have John G. Bork in 1891, who wrote in the Scatologic Rites of All Nations. He dedicated like 35 pages to mushroom rituals and rites, and showed how they tied into the Hindu soma and the Mexican mushroom practices. And it's clear that that Watson and these guys stole these ideas from these other people. But we have this whole undercurrent going all the way back of the elites using these things for control. And back then, I thought I bought into more of the spirituality up front aspects, and you can gain tremendous insight from them along with the trivium and quadrivium, but they should not be used without them, because otherwise they're very hardcore tools of mind control, and it's very easy to control somebody who who
is tripping.
Well, not just tripping, who doesn't have. Hold on. It's well, see, when you're tripping, that's with some of the substances, that's really the natural way that your mind works inside the trivium. But what happens is when you come down the next morning, you're sitting there saying, now, if I could just remember everything I figured out last night, I would have all this down. And then, every minute that goes by, it fades more and more and more, and then your ego's all back. But the trivium essentially shows you how to pull all of those fallacies and all of that crap out, and shows you how to get your mind working in a clear state, removing the fallacies and all the, whoop-de-doo hippie stuff that you get caught into and all of that nonsense. And then you can have a clear focus using psychedelics as a tool to expand the trivium and, to help pull you further outside the box to see more connections and stuff. But it's just, my sixth show was with Professor Neil Whitehead, a graduate of Oxford who taught at University of Wisconsin-Madison. He just died in March, but he was one of the only academics out there discussing dark shamanism at all. Dark shamanism has been completely whitewashed in most of the New Age stuff and even the academic stuff today, and it's created a very dangerous situation. But dark shamanism is almost as prevalent as light shamanism in South America, and for that matter, in the rest of the world. And when you get into studying the Kabbalah and Zionism and this stuff and how they use these dark arts, you can see that this is a direct continuation of these ancient dark shamanic arts. And if we also think of the ancient Greek mysteries that Ulysses or the Eleusinian mysteries, we can see there that here is this group of elites. You have two families who would dispense the kykeon, the sacred drink, which was probably ergot or mushrooms, and there's more and more evidence coming out all the time that LSD was discovered far, far, far further back than the official story of Bicycle Day and all of that.
Well, one of our previous guests on the show, a guy called Andrew Goff, have you heard of him? He talks about the veneration of the honeybee, and he's got some research to say that the shamans of that area were using a combination of some sort of hallucinogenic plant mixed with...
Well, psychedelic honey is very common. In fact, you need to be very careful, on what plants you collect honey from, because, or what bees what plants the bees are getting the nectar from that they create the honey from. Because if you get, you can get some honeys that are completely poisonous and will kill you, which there's good records in the archaeological record, like in ancient Greece or Rome, there was an entire army destroyed because they got toxic honey. And, so they can either be poisoned or they can be, or you can have a psychedelic experience. But yeah, I mean, honey is, that's a standard one. And in fact, Stephen Booner and I did an interview on sacred and herbal healing beers with him about 3 years ago, and we went into a lot of the information on psychedelic honeys and stuff, and we've covered a lot of that information on my show.
Excellent.
Interesting stuff.
Very interesting.
Yeah. In an interview I listened to you doing just recently, well, it wasn't a recent interview, but I was just sort of going through a few things as a bit of research. You just sort of dropped in the conversation about Michael Moore, and you said something like, "Oh yeah, he was one of Michael Moore's handlers."
Oh, you mean Ari Emanuel was? Yeah, that's Rahm Emanuel's brother. That
was it.
handler.
That was it. That intrigued me. You said we don't have time to go into that now. That's kind of going off.
Sure. Well, Michael Moore is the one going around the country promoting all of this. Mommy and Daddy socialist medical care. Mommy and Daddy take your guns away. The Bowling for Columbine nonsense that they propagandize. And of course, go ahead.
Sicko.
His film Sicko about the
healthcare.
national health.
Oh yeah. I was just saying about and I bought into all of his stuff, and then I started looking into his background and his handlers, and started considering some of these agendas that he's selling. And he's a total socialist.
Yeah.
He's and see, the issue with socialism is that you have to, whatever you give to one group of people, you have to take by force from another. And I'm more for autonomy. I'm more for Larkin Rose's research, and Larkin Rose is the author of A Most Dangerous Superstition, and he's actually my girlfriend's second cousin, and he's one of the leading experts out there. You guys probably love interviewing him, showing how the state is a complete lie. The government is the largest religion in the world now. You have these clowns that go around and they put on these these Halloween or Samhain costumes with their crowns and their gowns and their badges and their robes and all this stuff, and then and then you have all of these other clowns that put on their police uniforms and everything, and they actually go around and they perform all of these rituals, and they think that because they have this silly clown costume on, that they somehow have the authority to then go around and force people to their will and commit robbery and all of this other stuff. So, and it's all done around this religion of government. And so this is actually, this whole idea of the fourth world and the world citizen that we talked about, tied in with the Macy conferences and MK Ultra and everything earlier. That is their whole goal, is to create a situation for people to give up their natural autonomy over to a mommy and daddy government, or elitist or Zionist or whatever the case may be. So the entire foundation there is to give your freedom and your autonomy over to somebody else, and of course that is one of the oldest tricks of the ages.
Yeah, well, that's what the Christian Church did, for instance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Your accent is so heavy, mine is, but I can hardly understand you. So,
I was just going to say that goes back to like religion. I love the idea of the cult of government, or the religion of government.
And when you break it all down, and when you go through and study Larkin Rose's research, and I did a whole series with him of 4 interviews. And we also presented together at the Free Your Mind conference last year, and we'll be presenting together again next year in March or April 2013. So, but his research is really key, because once you understand that the government is nothing but a religion, and that all of these clowns put on their costumes, and then they and then from there the idea is to appeal to a false sense of authority, to the ad verecundium fallacy. So these people give up their autonomy in themselves and hand it over to this government, who taxes you, steals your stuff if you don't pay your taxes or whatever. And people will say, well, how would anything get done without the government? I mean, who does it already? Really, you just create a voluntary society, and it's. People have this idea that anarchy is people running through the streets with guns and all of this stuff. Well, anarchy is actually a stop sign. Anarchy is how your local grocer runs. That is an anarchy. And so this is the logic and clarity that they don't want people to have. Obviously, people don't pile up and crash and go crazy at stop signs. Accidents happen on occasion, but people are very responsible with that freedom and who goes. And so, this is the whole idea of, in a democracy, demo is mob and crassy is rule. And so what you do is you give people the right to vote once a year so that they think that they've done everything for their freedom, and then they go back to sleep. It's just a way to keep them docile and to keep them from acting up against the controllers, against the elite state. So when people wake up, just by stopping to vote, you stop empowering the criminals, and you just stop believing in them, just like you would any other religion. Just one day, turn around and walk away and stop believing in it. You don't put on your costume. What we need to do is get these ideas out to a wide enough audience so that they can wake up, and then what will happen is these elite leeches will have no power because they can do nothing without us. They have no power without us, and they are not the elite without us. And
unfortunately, they do like to hide behind their costumes. Their egos are kind of cloaked within these costumes.
But, see, once you realize that they just have a silly Halloween costume on and they're just running around saying trick or treat, just stop believing in it, people.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make. Is it's religion, and religion is a religare, which means to bind, and it also is the root of regalia, and that's what they wear. It's regalia, their fancy dress. So all these people, it's like the old persona of the ancient Greeks. They're putting on a mask, they're putting on the costumes, and when you have wars, you have all these armies, and they're fighting each other, and they're wearing the same regalia, they're wearing the same insignias, they're wearing the same occult symbols, which means they're at the higher echelons. They're just playing a game, and everyone's part of the same club, but they're just unaware.
Well, sure. If you think of it as an ethnic war, okay. And then what you have is the elites, okay, it's not about one country ever fighting another country. It's an ethnic war, and it's about putting all of the poor, all of the goyim, whatever you want to call them, up against each other and having them all kill themselves off. That is the real trick.
And if you can't get us to do that, they'll kill us with all the food that they...
the GMO food, the wheat, and the chemtrails. The chemtrails and everything else. And then, the feminism and attacking the family unit, putting out
getting women against men and...
Putting out all of these lies. Putting out all of these lies about how we're supposedly in this patriarchal society when it's the man goes out and deals with all Karen of Girl Writes What, she's the best at explaining that. I'll let people go on my website and listen to her interview, and I won't try and spoil it because her work is very deep for those who will put their grammar before their logic and listen to it before they leap to conclusions. And UK, in fact, is one of the hardest hit countries in the world to the effects of feminism.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, God,
we know that.
It's just too right on.
Yeah. It's a good old friend Edward again, isn't it?
Well, the thing is...
Torches of liberty.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's back to Edward
this kind of idea of... that we all need to kind of burn our bras and go out there, and we don't need men anymore.
Attack men, it's one thing that they always omit is, okay, well, the women were slaves to the men, but, never mind that the men were pack animals to the women, right?
Yeah.
And, there was give and take there. I mean, the women didn't have much freedom, but then the men had to go out and fight and bring in all of this stuff. Well, and I have friends that are mothers, and they're just... they can't even fathom the idea of wanting to go into the workforce over raising a family and that whole
completely. And this is
social conditioning. I have so many friends that go on, go on about what they want kids, and when they get kids, the first thing they want to do is go back to work.
This is something that has been so heavily promoted through like celebrities, whereby these women, they're pregnant, they're all in fashionable clothes, they're pregnant. Next minute, they've had their baby. Oh, look, she's coming out after having a cesarean, and she's lost all her baby pounds, and she just can't wait to get back to her fashion industry job.
Well, I have a story for you. I used to work at this company, and my boss was a former Playboy centerfold. And she...
Where did they put the centerfold?
What?
Where did they staples?
Okay.
Sorry about that. British humour.
More British humour, huh, Fight Chick?
Men and horses and men, whatever. Got it. Okay, I'll try and keep that in mind as we're progressing here. So what was I talking about now that I got derailed again?
About the Playboy centerfold.
Your boss is a Playboy centerfold. You used to work for.
All right, so I had this boss. She was a Playboy centerfold.
Oh, she was. It wasn't a guy.
It was a woman, and she was a Playboy centerfold.
I thought it was a guy. I don't know why. Sorry, I did a bit of a 360 in my head then.
Next story, we'll just skip that one.
No, go on.
No, please go on.
All right, one last try here. Okay, so I worked for this company where my boss, a female, was a former Playboy bunny and Playboy centerfold. And she got pregnant. And, well, first of all, you know, she bought into all the propaganda that you could possibly buy into. But she had her baby. She was anxious to get back to work after 2 to 3 weeks. I presented her a whole ton of information about circumcision and all of that. She refused to look at any of it. And even though her husband was against it as well, she wanted her son circumcised because she did not like uncircumcised penises.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean this woman was just totally psychotic. She just had her own view of things, and you know, don't confuse me with facts. I've already made up my mind. And so here's this Playboy bunny. Oh, and by the way, she was in such a rush getting back to work after 2 or 3 weeks after her baby was born that she accidentally dropped him on his head on a hard concrete tile floor. And you know, this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it was just, and then she ended up stabbing me in the back, and I ended up pulling out of that office, and that whole entire office collapsed, which I knew was going to be the exact effect, because I was one of the top employees in the company, holding that together, and when she stabbed me in the back and ripped me off, I just had to leave there and just watch the whole thing fall apart from underneath her. But it was just a horrible scene.
Yeah.
Well, it's also an element of you know, that Fabianism, bloody war of attrition, where you know, these people they go back, they have a child, they go back to work, and then they abdicate their responsibility over the child to a foreign body, you know, child care or whatever. You know, so that's like divide. You know, it's breaking that contact between the parent and child.
Our government actually pay you to do that, don't you? You get a childcare allowance where, if you want to go back to work, you can claim money to.
And they also make it so that it's worth more money to you not to be living with the father of your child, because if you're within a benefit system, it works out more beneficial to you like that. So they're effectively splitting up families.
Well, what's happening, though, is that all of the men are refusing to participate in the workforce in the UK, and so the entire tax base that holds all of that infrastructure up for the women over there is completely falling out the bottom. So in the next 5 or 10 years, all of those women that have structured their families around kicking the male out and this feminist bullshit, they're going to have a real rude awakening.
Yeah.
Can I just comment real quick on what you'd been talking about on the whole feminist issue in general? I've watched a film about, I can't remember exactly what it was about, but they did mention the whole feminist movement being a tool of the state to develop a whole new tax bracket. Whereas before women had entered the workforce, they hadn't been able to be taxed, and that was the whole thing about even with gay equality and everything too.
That's only a small part of it, but you're exactly right. I mean, you know, no taxation without representation. The only way that they could tax the other half of the population, for instance, in the in the United States, was by using Edward Bernays' tricks of propaganda to propagandize the women into believing this patriarchal lie, and hey, you don't get to work and you don't get to do any of this stuff, so let's trick you into getting out into the workforce, and let's trick you into having the right to quote unquote vote or to support the criminals, right? And then they can turn around and tax that person. So yeah, it was entirely a scam to get the other half of the population ensnared into their system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also, Fajik, you'd mentioned how the system in England has been set up to where the woman would gain more benefit from not having the father around. And I would say that the situation is the same here in the States, too, because I've got plenty of friends who, you know, are in a lower income bracket, and if they go to the system for any kind of assistance whatsoever, even if they're both working parents, they seem to gain less assistance or whatever than the single mothers or single fathers. But, you know, I doubt that the single fathers are going to do, well, I don't know, maybe they are going to.
Single fathers pretty much have no support in this country at all.
Well, that's true.
But, you know, see, what you have to consider, though, is that when you go to the government and get their help, they're going to put you in the compulsory education system, which first requires you to vaccinate your kids, which then, of course, causes all kinds of other issues. And Bill Gates on TED Talks talking about getting rid of 10% of the world's population there.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, but it's the, you know, getting the kids into all of these government programs and everything is a way to ensnare and further enslave that family. And while they're getting these benefits, what they don't realize is that they're totally giving their autonomy on every level over to this mommy and government statehood so that they can, you know, be adolescents and not grow up, so, you know, while they're raising their children, ironically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so it's this whole system that's in place to reinforce adolescence, to, you know, to get adults to be, you know, to act like 12 and 14-year-olds well into their
absolutely.
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
You see it even in the entertainment, you know, how this post-adolescent existence is like celebrated.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody seems to, or at least on the TV shows, I mean, I do watch it every now and then, I'll admit, I'm human. But, you know, it's just this like brushing off of personal responsibility and just seeking pleasure and entertainment. And like you're saying, Jan, it's kind of helping. It's not helping us to grow into adults.
Mm. And the responsibility of having children is that's what it is. It's the responsibility. It's a growing up stage within your life. Mm-hmm. And if you're not allowed to take that stage, if you're constantly being kind of mollycoddled by the state, then and allowing that programming to influence you that, right, well, I don't have to stay at home and look after my child. I can just go and play. I can just go to work and mingle with people and have money to be able to go out and buy clothes and do this and that. Do you know what I mean? That sounds rather flippant to say that, but I don't mean it in a flippant way. I mean I mean it in the sense that they're trying to separate you from your child and to make you not be kind of experiencing the heart and soul of parenthood, which is about the children.
And the schooling system.
Well, and the parents, too, and the mothers. You know, I was...
I'm not... sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. I wanted to comment, too, on something that was mentioned about the C-sections and the celebrities and everything. I'd watched years ago an interview with some woman from a TV show who was celebrating the whole fact that she'd had both of her children in C-section and how it was just wonderful, you know. And, I mean, frankly, I've got a friend of mine who had a baby on C-section, and she kind of had to do it, but she was so sad because she spent the first month of that baby's life just completely doped up on pain medication, and she totally didn't really get that.
Well, that is the whole idea
that women have to go, that women should be able to go through. You know,
well, that's the whole idea with this over promotion of the cesarean section is you know the doctors want you on their schedule. They don't want to be on the baby's schedule, which doesn't have one, right? And so then the second that they cut you, they immediately in this country make $4,000 to $10,000 just for a small cut, and you know, so this is their way to get you in the system, and then you can't hold the baby, and then so therefore you can't breastfeed. So then you have the baby on this GMO soy crap, and then you're feeding your male babies lots of estrogen and all of this kind of stuff, and then they don't properly develop, and on down the line. And I think it's very intentional. You know, it's probably 60 to 80% of these, the cesarean sections that are done are completely unnecessary.
Oh, absolutely.
And
It's
they don't,
not even more than that, I would think.
yeah, they don't tell you as well that C-sections are more likely to be infected. You're more likely to get problems afterwards after having a C-section, and you're less likely to be able to have a baby naturally afterwards as well.
Yeah, well, and sexual problems and pain and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then what's the one where they cut from the vagina to the anus, and that's just completely unnecessary as well. And that's most women don't need that, and if they don't do that, then the woman can just get up and walk out of there 30 minutes later. But if they do that again, it's another couple of grand for just taking a knife and cutting it. And we demanded that the doctor not do that when my son was born, and he went and did it anyway.
Oh my God!
He cut your wife?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
With our last child, I had the real gift of having having him at a birth center. Who my midwife there was the best. I mean, I've had 5 children, and this was the best experience ever. And she even let me just not bother cutting his umbilical cord so that all of my antibodies and all of the cord blood could reach his body. So that he could have the full, the full benefit of his birth, and I could too. And she.
I have a really good story in contrast for you with that, because when my son was born, we demanded that the umbilical cord not be cut for several minutes and allow my son to lay on his mom and start bonding and stuff. Well, the doctor looked at me and told me, this is the most goddamn absurd thing I have ever heard. I have delivered thousands of babies, and this is ridiculous.
Of course he said that, because, that's their training. They're trained to think that they have all of the answers, that they can tell any woman, especially if they're a male, that they can tell any woman what is going to go on with her body during her pregnancy, and that they know.
And he was really impatient too, and we were saying,
did he let you do it,
4 more minutes? Oh yeah, but it was by our demand, and but it's this horrible hospital in San Bernardino in Southern California called St. Bernardine's Hospital. It's just the most hideous damn place ever. And but yeah, this doctor.
I think I was lucky enough to not have to have one of our babies there. We went up to Oregon instead at the time when I was pregnant with him. That would have been that would have probably been where I had him, because we were living.
Well, and Loma Linda University Medical Center was 4 miles further, and we should have just gone there, or had, the issue why we didn't do a home birth at the time was money, and then we found out it would probably have been cheaper anyway, but it was just lack of information at the time. And so they totally tried to ensnare us. In fact, they called Child Services and separated us when we refused to allow them to vaccinate my son on childbirth.
Oh yeah, well of course, because how could you know better than the state of how to protect your child?
I simply asked them, if you would show me a single study on each one of these vaccines that shows the safety and efficacy in children under the age of 2, then we'll go ahead and move forward.
Then they couldn't do that.
Of course they could not provide.
That's conditional acceptance in law.
Yeah, and I've interviewed Dr. Andy Wakefield on my show, and they just totally, that was a dog and pony show that they did to him. And of course it was Rupert Murdoch and Richard Horton at the Lancet, and this guy Deere, all in this scam together. And they destroyed Andy Wakefield's career. And in fact, one of Andy Wakefield's partners a month or 2 ago was just completely exonerated of all charges, and I think given his medical license back, but they've still yet to give Andy's back. And, the charges are so trumped up and ridiculous, and the reason why he published his book and laid everything out in his book as he did was to try and get the, Richard Horton and the Lancet and everybody to sue him so that he could drag them all into court and hang them all.
I know that trying to refuse vaccinations here is almost impossible for sure. You have to have like a religious exemption or something else.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole idea. But if you if you homeschool your children, then you have no need to get them vaccinated for anything, right? So then you just keep them out of that whole system. I was just watching this propaganda film the other day called Hashishistan, which does have a lot of good information, but it's clear that the guy who made the film is a CIA agent. His ego is just way out of control. But in this film, they show these Afghanistan tribes. They show these tribes that are 6 million people strong, and not a single one of them has ever seen a doctor. There's not a single one of them with obesity. You don't see mental retardation, birth deformities, and
teeth defects.
and they didn't have any rotten teeth.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Or malformed jaws or malformed teeth lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and it's just it's just getting back to this paleo diet, and obviously, they're not sitting around eating the vegetarian diet in Afghanistan.
Yeah. I know. I came to that conclusion one time. I was watching a news report, and there was this. They were in like India or somewhere like this, Somalia or somewhere, and there was just the most beautiful little baby, and he must have been about 2 years old, I guess, and he just had a T-shirt on and no other clothes, and he was sitting there chewing on a piece of chicken or something. But he had the whitest, most beautiful teeth and the most white, sparkly eyes you could ever see.
Yeah.
And yet this was being portrayed as this kid who was like, oh no, look at this poor kid living in squalor.
Right.
So his teeth looked better than all the teeth of my children's friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and that's the issue is really back to teeth. Is these kids get these cereals for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and a hamburger or something for dinner. So they're constantly being bombarded with all of these carbos, plus all the carbos that they put in, all the processed foods and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you just cut, instead of being a lazy ass or arse and putting tossing a bowl of cereal and milk in front of your child every morning. Get your lazy butt out of bed, cook a couple of eggs. It takes 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. It takes 4 or 5 minutes, maybe a couple of pieces of bacon, and you put that in front of your child. They'll have energy for the entire day. They won't be hungry in a couple of hours asking you for snacks, and it won't rot their teeth out.
Yeah.
And they'll never be fat. All of these kids that I see around, in the United States, it's just absolutely amazing to me. I see these kids that are in 3rd and 4th grade that are 80, 100 pounds overweight, and it's clear that it's all from eating processed carbohydrates.
Do you know what? In England, the body shape I've noticed in the last 10 years has started changing, in that you see a lot more people who are really quite overweight in...
Oh, sure. Well, they're picking up our habits. That's why.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's to do with the sugar, the fructose syrup, which is in a lot of
foods.
Food.
Sure. Oh, you guys
using it in breads and things like this now.
Well, when I lived in Yugoslavia, the nice thing about Yugoslavia, and I lived there under Milosevic for a year and a half during the farcical war that we propagandized against them. And, all of, the artificial food coloring, artificial sweeteners, all of that kind of stuff was completely illegal there. Like if you bought a pack of orange-flavored Tic Tacs, they were natural orange flavor, and they came in an orange container, and the Tic Tacs were white. Whereas opposed to here, the Tic Tacs are orange, and the package is clear. Yeah. And so, the artificial sweeteners and all of that stuff were illegal there, and I always found that, fascinating. And then I come back here, and you see all of these health problems, and in hindsight, seeing what was happening to my ex there and her detox when she would go to Serbia every year. Yeah. And, it's a really stark contrast in how they, every year when nothing in Yugoslavia was ever labeled organic because everything was, and you would have these.
Yeah, remember the days where you didn't have to be told that.
And you had these massive outdoor farmers markets in Belgrade. I mean, just huge, where you could drive around with your car and get sacks, 50, 100-pound sacks of potatoes for $2 or $3. Huge sacks of peppers, strawberries, cherry. I mean, everything farm fresh right there. And then when I would come back to the States, And, you know, for 6 months it was like eating paper. Even the organic crap here is far lesser quality than they had over there.
You know, even the organic market now is, well, to me, I do, you know, buy into the organic thing in a way. I haven't grown it myself, but it's because a lot of the products that they're bringing to us, they say organically grown, but that doesn't mean to say that once it's been grown, the way it's exported from the country that it's exported from, it can be, you know, gassed or irradiated or have any kind of product that you might not wish to happen to your food before it comes to your table happening to it. Also, I know that it can say organically grown, but that doesn't mean to say that the seed has to be organic.
Yeah, it could be one seed.
Yeah, that's true. And they've been playing tricks with that stuff lately too.
With just the way they name things and the.
But you know, once people get pissed off enough and show up at the front doors of Monsanto with guns and billy clubs, I think maybe the people won't show up to work anymore. You know, I think that's the best way to handle that situation. You know, because they are poisoning us. They are physically attacking us. They're committing all of these eugenics. They're attacking our ability to live and sustain ourselves. And what other than that is, you know, what other than such an egregious violation of natural law deserves exact and, you know, equal retaliation? And I mean, it needs to be full force and immediate, and they need to be completely shut the hell down.
Yeah, but they put
anybody who tries to pull that crap after they're shut down can be taken out in the street and literally hung. I couldn't give a crap.
But they place these factories in these areas where there is deprived areas and unemployment, and the people go, yay, we've got a job now working for this big stinky factory. And, you know, like in you know, Detroit and the car areas where...
That's not where Monsanto puts its stuff, but, you know, yeah, I see what you're saying.
It is in Britain, yeah.
It is here. They put them in
Wales and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, didn't Monsanto get kicked out of most of Europe? Are they still holding in England?
Still here, yeah.
Yeah, because I know Europe kicked them out. I think didn't Ireland kick them out, and Iceland and the rest too. And I know India and China kicked them out.
The IMF.
Yet America won't.
Well, it's a company. See, if you get into Clint Richardson's research on the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, or CAFRs, you'll discover that the United States government owns 80% of these Fortune 500 companies, including Monsanto. So It's really the government that's the driving force behind that.
Yeah.
Well, isn't there just as well a driving force behind the government, though?
Yeah, a false appeal to authority.
People like Watson.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment one more time. I'm sorry to just kind of take it backwards a little bit. You've been talking about vaccinations, and recently one of our sons had been bitten by my father's dog, and she was up to date on all of her shots, but he was actually not, because we have opted out of vaccinating them. And when they asked me about a tetanus booster, and I said it had been a while since his last one, and you know, they tried to give him a DTaP vaccine, which is, you know, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. And when I asked her if they had simply a tetanus booster to protect him for what he was actually there for, she kind of looked at me like I had three heads and said no, that they didn't. And this is at a hospital, where you would think that they would have something like that on hand.
Now for a dog bite, unless the dog has obvious signs of rabies, why would you follow, or unless you stepped on a nail or something, why would you follow up with that?
Well,
a dog bite is less serious than a cat bite. They have less germs. Cat bites can be quite serious, but
yeah, I mean, unless the dog is foaming at the mouth and going crazy, which then you just go out and you shoot it. I mean, there's no other reason to even really, worry about a minor, bite unless the child needs stitches.
In the moment, it was. I was just.
Well, that's what you see. That's their whole gig, is to get you caught up in the fear, and then this is when they get you.
Of course.
So, and it's just becoming aware of that and being able to apply the trivium under those circumstances. So,
I was just at the doctor's for a routine thing, whatever it was, sore throat or something, I don't know, something very mundane with one of my kids, and the doctor said, it wasn't even my regular doctor, and they said, let's just check up on your vaccination things, and I just said, she said, are you up to date on all your vaccinations? And I just said, oh, no, I don't do that. And then she very soon started, it was like she started lulling me into this not lulling me, but she started trying to drag me into this hard sell by, coming across all kind of like, oh, well, fear, oh, blah, blah, blah. And
appeal to emotion, appeal
to fear, yeah. And she was even trying to appeal to my child's fear by saying, well, when you're older, you can make your own decisions about whether you want to go ahead and do this kind of thing. And my daughter just looked at her and said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be having them, thanks, love.
Good on your daughter.
Yeah. And I felt like as if, like, I don't know if you've ever seen these programs about people in foreign holiday spots where they get you into a hotel lobby and say, do you want to buy a timeshare? And it's a whole scam whereby once they get you in the room, they just start hitting you with these hard sell techniques. And I felt like, having walked into that doctor's surgery, she felt she had the right to suddenly start hitting me with these hard sell techniques. And it was quite something to behold, actually. But, she smarted by the time we left.
Well, what's interesting is they use this whole, herd vaccination mentality, and they'll say, well, you could infect the rest of the herd if you're not vaccinated. Well, it doesn't. Wait, hold on, please. Isn't the rest of the herd already vaccinated? Or then there's the opposite argument. Well, you could come down with something from the rest of the herd. Well, again, isn't the rest of the herd vaccinated?
Yeah,
but
right.
and I've studied the vaccine issue for a good 20 years, and the more I've looked at it, and you get into back to Clint Richardson, my friend who exposed the Capper stuff. He put out a documentary on vaccines called Lethal Injection that shows exactly how they use them for eugenics, and shows the entire history of it coming out of veterinary medicine, and how they would vaccinate the wild horse populations to keep them under control here in the U.S. and stuff like that. And, they're clearly using the same tools. And then, like I said earlier, Bill Gates going on TED Talks and CNN bragging of this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when anybody who thinks that, Andy Wakefield committed some fraud, I dare you to have the brains to go out and read his book and fact check the information for yourself before you come to such a conclusion about the man.
Mm. Yeah.
Doesn't Eustace Mullins touch on that? I can't remember what the...
No, sure. He one of his books was Lethal, or... shoot, I've got it here. In fact, I did Eustace Mullins' last interview before his death. And just before he died, he sent me an entire collection of all of his books autographed.
Wow. Great.
Yeah, but he goes into about chemotherapy and radiotherapy and all that kind of stuff and where that originates from.
Yeah, murder by injection.
That's it. Murder by injection. Yeah.
Good Lord. Clues in the title.
It's just outrageous that they can even try to get away with it, but they do, because people mostly don't. This is something that puzzles me actually, Jan, is that I only came to your work in the Trivium and this kind of thing in the last sort of couple of years, but I was already using these kind of thinking skills to kind of oversee where there were fallacies within arguments of government or authority. And I wouldn't say that I had a particularly smart upbringing. I didn't, I used to eat all the crap. And, I've had although, I've done detoxes and got into all that kind of thing in later years in my life. As a kid, I was filled up with all the the
cereals for breakfast.
Yeah, cereals and crap sweets and stuff like this. I watched all the brainwashing crap TV shows that kids had on. So
and it just goes to show you that all of that work that they did on you, they still can't control every variable.
Well, that's the only conclusion that I can come up with, is that they have to really work really hard to try to dumb us down. But then I look at so much of the world around me, and so much of it is really dumbed down.
Oh, sure, but we are making an impact, and it is interesting to watch this spread of the trivia meme since I first brought it out on my show 3 years ago, and now you've got dozens of radio stations and podcasts that have picked up on it and have started teaching it to their audiences, and so in fact, maybe 6 or 8 months ago, I saw a newspaper article out of Australia, out of a major, a mainstream media newspaper, where they were saying, suddenly there's a major comeback of the Trivium, and I was just sitting there kind of giggling to myself. I'm like, gee, I wonder who started that.
I think it's extremely important. It's like, as people do begin to, like you say, that, all right, these things might be happening, but people can begin to start thinking for themselves, and that actually your work, although it's important for getting people to start thinking like this, I think it's more important for like a new generation to start being taught with these things, so that from the beginning it can, so that we don't have to go through all the crap and then work backwards. We can actually
and my son is 6, and I can already see him starting to outthink a lot of kids a lot older than him, because I'm always constantly, okay, who, what, where, when, who, what, where, when, how do you know that? Where did you come up with that? And so now he's starting to look at me like that. I'll just joke him or give him something. And where before, when he would have bought it, now he's like really getting sharp and say, Dad, that's not possible. And he's actually being able to follow the path of how something got from point A to point B. It's like in my recent article on Darwin and Huxley and the Esalen Institute spreading all of the 2012 propaganda for mind control. And showing that whole path, and it's like, here is this 6-year-old. He's already able to see a logical progression on his own without anybody saying a word and saying, oh, so it goes from here, and then it went to this person, and then it went to that person, and then this person knew that person, so it got to here, and then it got down over here. And I said, well, yes, that's exactly right. And I didn't have to say one word to him. He got it. But what's interesting is if you explain this to an adult, they'll sit there and they'll just say, oh, well, that's just a coincidence. And this article has this article that I wrote on Darwin and Huxley and the Esalen Institute of Mind Control has more than 30 coincidences. 12 of them are numbered, but if you go through and actually count them all out, including the unnumbered ones, there's like 29 or 31 or something like that in there. So it makes the chances of it not having been a conspiracy like 1 in 3 billion or something like that, right? And so, it's like a greater chance than DNA testing that my conclusion is accurate. Exactly. But you can't get anybody to actually look at the citations or read it. They all put their conclusions or their logic before their grammar, and they'll, complete Stockholm Syndrome. They'll sit there and fight for, keeping their masters in control of them.
Yep. I see that every day.
So will your 6-year-old son be starting his own business soon, Jan?
Maybe he already has. I don't know.
We have a 6-year-old like that too, Jan. You can't really put anything over on him. He is just so sharp, and it's incredible. Nothing gets past him. He can remember details from a story that you told him, that he said, that you told him. Like a week ago or whatever, and you're telling someone else the same story, and you change the detail just a little bit, and he calls you on it. He'll say, wait a second, I thought you said this happened. So what do you think now?
I have a question on something that I said 6 months ago, and I'm just like, he's like, yeah, you remember when we were driving over here, over there, we did this and that, and then you said this, and I'm like, no. Going on there. Yeah, so there's a concerted effort to dumb the kids down, and when we unleash their natural, capacities, to learn, then they can climb. It was interesting as the backbone of the American Revolution was based on this program, and you had 10 and 12-year-olds running these huge corporations all on their own back in the 1800s, and now, these kids coming out of these public schools can't tie their shoes. What the hell happened? I mean, you look at these old folks, and you see kings everywhere that are 10, 12, 14 years old, able to run an entire kingdom effectively. And we sit there and think, well, how could a kid do that? And then you study the kingdom and you go, oh, well, of course a kid could do that. And so the thing is the reason why we don't put that much faith in children's abilities today, I shouldn't say kids, in children's abilities is because of the compulsory education system and dumbing the children down and not giving them the trillium so that they become autodidacts so that they can build their own empires by the time they're 12 years old.
Yeah. Get that free energy device working before you're 12 years old.
He's really clever. He made a solar-powered fan. Just a little solar panel that he put up to a battery fan and put up to a pad and blah, blah, blah. Something over for no reason. Just kind of cool.
Yeah.
No.
You know, about 10
tinfoil around our house.
Excuse me while I inhale some cannabis.
Pass it around again. I mean,
well, we only have 5 minutes left, actually, on the show.
I want to pass to somebody in the state where I was arrested for passing,
You're only arrested here.
So, what's the you still working on the film project?
Yeah, the fundraiser ended last night, and unfortunately we only raised about a quarter or a third of what we were hoping to raise. We did acquire the equipment so that we're able to start producing a lot of other video stuff, but as far as the funds I need to finish that project specifically, it's still, we're still going to have to figure out a way to raise more funds for that because right now we're just entirely short, and so that's really the issue there.
It's not really we couldn't send any more, but
well, and I appreciate all the help and strike that we raised about $5,000. So we did by just most of the equipment we needed. There was we would like to have one more camera, a backup laptop, and some other stuff, some lenses and things like that. But we did pretty good with what we got, and we can at minimum listen to other video productions since the film project on mushrooms was going to require quite a bit of travel. Which was what that level of money was for. It was a bit of the travel and research time, hotels and stuff. And then we had intended to give us in these archives. I found someone going through the documents, and I contacted the number of the archives and said I got permission to show up with cameras and everything. And one of them was none other than the Hoover Institute at Stanford University, and they're going to show up like around. They're going to let me come in and film. But so that's a bit of a disappointment. But at least we did get things, the equipment and other stuff needed to better the podcast and start doing video podcasts as well, which we are slowly being prepared here as each episode goes out. I apologize for the poor quality in the second episode last week. We'll get that better around next week.
That was good, yeah.
The main ones that you want to study are gnosticmedia.com, that's